That's it. I'd like to call the March meeting of the Planning Commission to order. I will call on Commissioner Edwards to give the invocation.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for all your many blessings. Lord, we thank you for the ability to come to a place like this and reason together. God, we thank you, Lord, for all of the concern and all of the hard work that has been done to put together this package and put together this meeting and to engage in this discussion. God, we just ask at this time, Lord God, that you will open our ears and our eyes to all that we hear and we see. And God, we ask for your wisdom to give us a fair and just decision, not only for the applicant, but for the health of the city going forward. God, we thank you for our staff, and we thank you for our citizens. And we thank you, Lord God, for the right to live in a country where we can agree to disagree and come together in unity. Lord, we love you and we thank you. In your precious name we do pray. Amen.
Thank you. Amen. Mr. Wyman, you call a roll, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
Yes! Commissioner Creekmore.
Here.
Commissioner Eberwine.
Here.
Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Goodman.
Here.
Commissioner Hicks.
Here.
Vice Chairman Staylor.
Here.
And Chairman Singleton.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Wyman. Are there any corrections to the February minutes that we received in our packet? If not, they will stand as presented. We have a few items on our agenda today. We have one item that the community stakeholders have asked us to review as a text amendment, and that's item H, I think, on the
G, I believe.
item H on the ordinance text amendments OTA 2024-003.
It's G. It's G, item G.
Oh, it's item G, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. The text amendment item G, OTA 2024-002. The stakeholders have asked us to look a little deeper into this, and we would like to remove this from our agenda today. I will accept the motion.
So moved.
Second. Can we do this with a voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So we now have 7 items on our agenda today. This afternoon, we have 7 items for our public hearing. Public hearings are for 30 minutes, 10 minutes for the proponents, 15 minutes for the opponents, and 5 minutes for rebuttal. This meeting is videotaped and televised for public viewing. The first item on our agenda today is the rezoning request, RZN 2023-005, conditional, Pitch Kettle Landing. Mr. Wyman, you read the caption, please.
Yes, sir. Rezoning request RZN 2023-005, conditional, Pitch Kettle Landing, submitted by Kate Veralt, applicant on behalf of HG Pitch Kettle Land LLC, property owner in accordance with sections 31304 and 31305 of the Unified Development Ordinance to rezone and amend the official zoning map of the City of Suffolk to change the zoning from CP, Commerce Park, RU, Residential Urban, and O&I, Office Institutional Conditional Zoning Districts, to RC, Residential Compact Conditional Zoning District, for property located on Pitch Kettle Road, zoning map 34, parcel 3C*5*6. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Holy Neck voting borough, zoned CP, Commerce Park, RU, Residential Urban, and O&I, Office Institutional Zoning Districts conditional. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as part of the Central Growth Area, Inner Ring Suburban Use District. When you act on this request, you will be acting on a resolution to present a report and a recommendation to City Council relating to rezoning request RZN 2023-005 conditional. Staff Planner Brittany Collier will present staff's report.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission.
As stated, this is a request to rezone the property from CP Commerce Park, RU Residential Urban, and OI Office Institutional to zoning district RC Residential Compact Conditional for the purpose of developing a single-family attached townhome development. The property up for discussion is located within the Central Growth Area, Inner Ring Suburban Use District, and is located on the northern side of Pitch Kettle Road next to the Pitch Kettle Route 58 interchange. To the north of the parcel are fields and forested lands zoned RR, Rural Residential, and C, Conservation. To the south is the West Haven Lake subdivision consisting of single-family detached homes zoned RL, Residential Low Density, and the Foxfield Meadows subdivision consisting of single-family detached homes zoned RLM, Residential Low Medium, and townhomes zoned RU, Residential Urban Zoning District. To the east is the Preserve at Lake Mead subdivision consisting of single-family detached homes zoned RR, Residential Rural Zoning District, and to the west is the Route 58 bypass. Currently, the parcel is subject to conditional rezoning request RZ 13-06, which rezoned a portion of the property from Commerce Park to Office Institutional and RU Residential Urban Conditional Zoning District in order to construct 179 age-restricted attached townhomes and 20,000 square feet of commercial space. Currently, the applicant is requesting to rezone approximately 63 acres from CP Commerce Park, OI Office Institutional, and RU Residential Urban Conditional Zoning District to RC Residential Compact Conditional Zoning District in order to construct a single-family attached townhome development. The subject parcel is located in the Inner Ring Suburban Use District, which is intended to primarily be composed of single-family traditional neighborhood developments. The applicable place types within this district include traditional neighborhood center, traditional neighborhood, suburban center, and suburban neighborhood. The Inner Ring Suburban Use District recommends a density of 6 to 12 dwelling units per acre. The applicant has proffered that no more than 335 single-family attached units shall be established as a part of this request, which would result in a net density of 5.7 units per acre, which falls just below the recommended density of 6 to 12 units per acre in the Inner Ring Suburban Use District. As the subject parcel is located on the outer edge of the use district, a lesser density than what is recommended would be appropriate. The requested RC conditional zoning district and proffered unit count are found to be compatible with the surrounding development use patterns. A conceptual layout was provided in support of this application. However, it is not proffered and may be subject to change during the site development process. The conceptual layout proposes a single-family attached townhome development consisting of no more than 335 units as proffered by the applicant. Wetlands were found to be located along the northern portion of the parcel as well as the western side of the property and extending towards the eastern side of the parcel, occupying 4.6 acres of the site, which reduces the potential number of units that could be realized. After subtracting out the total amount of critical area, the parcel is left with approximately 58 acres of developable area. Therefore, the proposed net density for this development would be 5.7 units per acre. As a part of the rezoning request, staff reviewed the provided conceptual layout and has provided comments regarding the proposed layout, which may have an impact on the number of units that can be realized on the parcel. The applicant will be required to meet all design and layout standards for the project, and compliance with those standards will be reviewed at the time of development plan review. The comprehensive plan sets specific themes and policies related to land use, transportation, open space, and the environment that should be considered when contemplating a rezoning application. It is staff's opinion that the requested rezoning to RC Residential Compact Zoning District Conditional is consistent with the policies of the 2035 Comprehensive Plan. Relevant to this application are the following. Policy 2-2, assure that development occurs in a predictable and orderly manner. The surrounding parcels along Pitch Kettle Road are comprised of a mixture of residential zoning districts consisting of rural residential, residential low medium density, and residential low density zoning districts. The proposed rezoning to RC in conjunction with the proffered number of 335 single-family attached units is expected to continue predictable and orderly development in this area as outlined in the comprehensive plan. Presently, there is an existing right-of-way connection stub to the subject property. In accordance with Section 31-612, subsection F3 of the Unified Development Ordinance, the proposed development would be required to connect into the existing Preserve at Lake Mead subdivision. Policy 2-4, promote compatibility in land use patterns. The proposed zoning to the RC conditional district and the maximum density of 5.7 units per acre are found to be compatible with nearby established neighborhoods. The current RU zone portion of the parcel would allow for a by right development of townhomes at a maximum density of 5 units per acre. Therefore, the proposed zoning district and number of units for this development would increase the number of allowable units by 0.7 units per acre on the subject parcel. The proposed rezoning from OI and CP zoning district would allow for a use that is more compatible with the surrounding land uses. The Departments of Public Utilities, Public Works Engineering, and Public Works Traffic Engineering have reviewed this request and have no objections. Compliance will be reviewed at the time of development plan review. The subject property currently is assigned to Kings Fork High School, Kings Fork Middle School, and Elephants Fork Elementary. As tax parcel 34*3C*5*6 is presently zoned Commerce Park Office Institutional, and the previous residential urban zoning allowed for an age-restricted development, the parcel has no by right residential unit allowance to leverage as it relates to school impacts. In accordance with Section 31-601 of the Unified Development Ordinance, a development consisting of 335 single-family units would generate 61 elementary school students, 34 middle school students, and 44 high school students. Currently, there is a deficit at the high school and elementary school levels. Additionally, there is currently a surplus at the middle school level of 9 students, which is not sufficient enough to serve the 34 students anticipated to be generated in accordance with the generation rates outlined within the UDO for the proposed development. The fiscal year 2024-2033 capital improvements plan contains a variety of school facility projects that would increase capacity system-wide at all impacted school levels. In accordance with the UDO, the applicant may advance capacity through a cash contribution towards these projects. As such, cash contribution towards the advancement of capacity may be accepted. In 2021, the city conducted a schools facility and needs assessment, which outlined the projected cost to construct school facilities at each level. Based on this assessment, as it relates to the development proposal, to adequately advance school capacity contributions, the developer would need to provide a total cash contribution of $5,855,265.51. The developer has proffered this amount as a part of their proffer statement. On the next slide, you will see the voluntary proffers that have been provided as a part of this request. The applicant has voluntarily proffered 9 conditions in support of this rezoning request, which are provided in detail over the next few slides. The first proffer outlines the total cash contribution for impacts to the schools. The second proffer limits the development to a maximum of 335 townhome units. Proffers 3 through 6 speak to the required size and design elements for the units. Proffer number 7 pertains to traffic improvements that shall be done in accordance with the approved traffic impact analysis. As outlined in the approved TIA, the applicant will make the following improvements: construct the southbound approach to create the fourth leg of the existing unsignalized intersection with 1 shared left-through lane and 1 exclusive right turn lane. Restripe eastbound approach to include an exclusive left turn lane to include a 200-foot taper, and construct westbound right turn lane with a 150-foot taper. Additionally, the applicant has proffered to make a cash contribution to the City of Suffolk to assist with the cost of a junction study or improvements at the Route 58 Pitch Kettle Road interchange. Proffer number 8 pertains to the amenities to be provided, such as a clubhouse and pool as a part of the development. And lastly, proffer number 9 speaks to the enhanced entrance features to be provided and design materials. In summary, the proposed rezoning of tax parcel 34*3C*5*6 from the CP Commerce Park OI Office Institutional and RU Residential Urban Conditional to RC Residential Compact Zoning District Conditional is consistent with the policies of the 2035 Comprehensive Plan. The proposed density of roughly 5.7 units per acre would be more compatible with the established residential development patterns than commercial or office uses permitted by the existing OI and CP zoning districts. Therefore, staff recommends approval with conditions of rezoning request RZN 2023-005 conditional with the proffers as submitted. I'm available for any questions following the public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. I will now open the public hearing. Who would like to speak in favor of this request?
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Grady Palmer. I'm an attorney. I practice at the 999 Waterside Drive in the city of Norfolk. It's a real privilege to be here today. I'm going to introduce the team, and you'll hear from a few of them. Represent today a company called Boyd Homes, who has done a number of projects here in the city of Suffolk, and you'll hear about those in just a minute. I'm also here today with Brian Lane, our project engineer, who will have the availability to answer questions in the event there are any engineering questions. I want to thank the staff as well for all the work that was put into this project. It's taken us many months to get this project to the point where it's ready for Planning Commission review, and I want to say thanks to the staff for all their efforts. Now, given all the recent warehousing and industrial interest in the city of Suffolk, we see the current zoning as incompatible with the residential character along Pitch Kettle Road. And we see this site as a great opportunity to develop a high-quality townhome community given its location, immediately adjacent to the bypass and proximity to the interchange. Approving this project would do a few things. First, it would ensure that potential traffic generation is reduced and truck traffic potential eliminated. Now, as you heard Brittany talk about in her presentation, for many, many years, this parcel has been zoned CP Commerce Park. In fact, the whole quadrant around the Route 58 interchange there, at one time, I think it was all Commerce Park zoning, but certainly this segment of the quadrant and the southwest segment of the quadrant is CP zoning and has been for many, many years. And that makes some sense because of the anticipated truck logistics coming online at the interchange was attractive many years ago. In today's world, I don't think that's very attractive. Now, one of the things that we did in our analysis was to compare the traffic generation under the proposed zoning with the traffic generation of the current zoning. And we did a report. I'm going to leave it here in your basket. But essentially, it cuts the traffic projections in half if this project is approved and eliminates any light industry truck traffic that would come out of the Commerce Park zoning. This community would provide on-site recreational amenities and architectural controls to ensure quality design and maintenance. And now the third thing approving this project would do, it would provide a transition from the bypass to the single-family communities to the east and south of the site. Most importantly, it would create diverse, quality, and needed homes for working families and individuals. And many of you may have seen recently, the Virginian Pilot reported a significant increase in hiring at the shipyards in expectation of significant submarine construction and the hiring that will be needed to do that. Also, you've seen employment centers forming in Suffolk. They'll continue to form. Suffolk is a great place to work. It's a great place to live, and we think this project will help do both, provide both living and working in Suffolk. In addition, it's very close to downtown. We think that the more that you can do to support downtown with residential projects in close proximity will benefit downtown. Finally, this project would provide, as you heard, $5.8 million to the school system to expand student capacity. Also, we're trying to do everything we can to help the city of Suffolk with the junction study, the Route 58 junction study, or improvements. So we're contributing $100,000 in that effort. And this is all in. We're reducing the traffic potential. The current traffic potential is much higher than what we are proposing, and there are no proffers associated with the current zoning, at least the CP zoning. And finally, and this is per the fiscal impact analysis that we submitted, this project would generate $1.3 million net every year for the foreseeable future. So that's in addition to the proffers and the improvements that we're offering with the development. So with that, I'll stand by for any questions that you have. I do request your approval today, and I know there was some discussion about the signs, and we can discuss that further in rebuttal if necessary. So with that, I'll stand by. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and the Commission. My name is Christopher Bullock with Boyd Homes, and I live at 3327 Mintonville Point Drive in Suffolk. To give you a little introduction to Boyd Homes generally, since 1984, Boyd Homes has developed high-quality subdivisions in the Hampton Roads area. For an example of our work in Suffolk, Boyd Homes developed the successful Patriots Walk subdivision down near where I live off Nansman. Our proposed development will bring significant financial and aesthetic benefits to the Suffolk area generally and to the community specifically. We look forward to working with the city to bring it to fruition, and I'll be happy to field any questions should you have any after the hearing.
Is anyone else to speak in favor of this request? Hearing none. Is there anyone to speak in opposition?
Is there someone that can put these up or please this to the council? Or are they,
Reverend Ambassador, please.
all right, well, you won't be able to see them. My name is Christopher Dove. I live at 852 Colonel Meade Drive, Suffolk, Virginia. I point you to the documents that I gave you that you're not looking at, the adequate facilities section of the Unified Development Ordinance, section 31601. It specifically states that the purpose is to ensure that the adequate public facilities needed to support new developments are available concurrent with the impacts of development. This is not the case in this development. The schools impacted, according to DDO, are Kings Fork High School, Kings Fork Middle School, and Elephants Fork Elementary School. Currently, Elephants Fork Elementary School is on the comprehensive plan for improvement, but no funds have been allocated. There is no start date, and there is no completion date for the school since it's just been pushed off to the right for the last 10 years. No improvements are planned for Kings Fork Elementary, Kings Fork High School or Kings Fork Middle School. So therefore, this development is both prohibited and unlawful according to the UDO. The section that talks about adequate capacity states that no advancement of capacity will be accepted needed to determine or avoid deterioration and adopt a level of service shall be accepted unless the proposed facility plan improvement appropriate conditions are included in the application, will be obtained necessary approval prior to concurrence with the issuance of the final subdivision. And specifically, Kings Fork has no plans for improvement, and they will not, and they do not are included in the application. The same thing for Kings Fork Middle School. In addition, the commitment to construction to the public facilities to ensure the service building permit shall be included as a condition of development shall contain at a minimum the following. Planned capital improvement for the facilities. There are none for the high school or middle school. An estimated total financial resources needed. There are none for the high school and the middle school. Schedule of commencement and completion construction of the planned capital improvement specific target dates for multi-phase large school improvements. There are none for the high school, the middle school, or the elementary school. The available public services ensure that adequate capacity available to concurrence with the impact of proposed development following the minimum requirements shall apply. The capital improvements are currently in place. They are not. The capital improvement conditions are developed in order or developed permit are guaranteed to be provided by a time that impacts the development will occur. They are not. The capital improvements are planned capital improvements which are under construction, or the capital improvements are proposed to be constructed and made available at the time of the impacts will be occurred by an entity that has bonded it, contractually or otherwise provided facilities or services. They have not. Therefore, this proposal, while well-intended, fails to follow the due process established by the UDO. It also fails to meet the requirements of the UDO. I suggest strongly that this council go ahead and add the condition that is required by the UDO that construction cannot take place until the adequate facilities exist concurrent with the development. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition? Hearing none. That end the times for opposition. Rebuttal?
I'd just like to say thank you to this planning commission. We appreciate your time and your consideration of our application. So thank you.
I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, question, comments, or motion?
I have a question. The research about school capacity, I have heard mixed numbers. I just wanted to verify that Elephants Fork is or is not at current enrollment capacity for the school year.
The city evaluates capacity based on residential units that are committed. So as it relates to the school capacity and the numbers they keep, ours are actually include students that are projected based on development trends and approved development. With that being said, utilizing those numbers, Elephants Fork does not have enough capacity to absorb the students. Thus, the applicant as proposed is advancing capacity in accordance with the UDO.
Mr. Chairman, I have some comments. I don't know that I have any questions for anybody, but obviously I live right across the bypass from this proposed project. And as in some others, I've voiced my concern for traffic and safety. In looking at the information that's been provided, I question the peak numbers for the AM, PM. I think it said 161 peak and 199 peak in the PM for 335 units. That looks a little bit light. And in looking at the main entrance to this neighborhood, which is right across from Foxfield, I know that on the front side of Foxfield, there is, I believe, a fairly large number of apartments to be added to that project, plus some additional single family. And West Haven Lakes, that property is just about full now with the most recent development in the back there. Heron Point and the neighborhood right adjacent to this is a substantial number of homes. And if you ride down and look at the entrance to Foxfield, this interchange will add a right turn lane coming from downtown Suffolk into the neighborhood, and a left turn lane that would be in the center, turning from the bypass into this neighborhood. And it's on a curve. The road will have to be, if you've looked at this property, it's way below road level. In fact, when I rode by and looked at the sign that was showing this neighborhood was behind the guardrail. So it was, you could see it, thank goodness we got the bigger signs now, but the elevation there means that this will have to be a ramp up to exit unless they go through the adjacent neighborhood. So I have severe safety concerns about putting that many more cars onto Pitchkettle Road. Particularly, I think this even pointed out, more than likely there have to be some changes to the entrance and exit ramps in this interchange. This interchange will also be impacted by the Lake Kilby project that was approved back by council several months ago. The schools, Mary Ellen brought up the point on the schools, and I received some additional information from a citizen, and the Elephant's Fork is severely over capacity at the present time. I think it's 125% over capacity right now. And I don't know what the timeline is for adding these 335 units, but Elephant's Fork is, I don't think it's even in the comprehensive plan, or maybe it's so far out that it's kind of a pipe dream. Also, something that's bothered me, and I brought it up before, so I'll bore y'all with it again, and that is there's a section in here that's 4.1, policy 4.1, where it says provide opportunities for residents to adopt a lifestyle that is less dependent on auto travel. Well, there's nothing that you can get to from this proposed neighborhood that you're not going to drive in a car, other than maybe some amenities that offer there. So with that said, I'm going to have a hard time supporting this, this proposal. Thank you.
Commissioners? Get a vote for either for or denial.
Well, I'll put it on the floor, since nobody else will, apparently. I'd like to move for approval of RZN 2023-005 with proffers.
Got a motion for? Did I get a second?
For discussion's sake, I second.
Got a second? Okay. Any discussion of the motion? Wham, you call for the vote?
I'm just wondering if anyone can, the young man, what was his name? Jeremy, who lived on Jeremy Drive, who was speaking in opposition.
Mr. Dutton?
Mr. Dutton, does anybody have any idea? Mr. Secretary, can you speak to his concerns?
Certainly. The ordinance, section 601 of the Unified Development, 31601, addresses adequate public facilities, of which we analyze with any request for development that would generate additional residential units, or in the case of commercial, generate additional vehicular trips. Subsection G does allow for the advancement of capacity, provided there are projects contained within the capital improvements plan that would work to address those. We do have a specific project in the capital improvements plan for Elephant's Fork. It would be a replacement school. Understanding that the city supplies funding for capital projects like schools, but does not make decisions as it relates to districting. That is a school board decision. There are many projects in the capital improvements plan that will work to increase capacity system-wide. One of those is under construction now, JFK Middle School. The current school has a capacity around 500-ish. The new school will seat 800 students, so that's a net generator. So with that being said, that does allow for the option to make cash contributions towards new seats with the facilities that we have contained within our current CIP.
Because it is system-wide, because we don't district. There we go. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motions?
Yeah.
Sir, will you sit down, please? Commissioner Goodman?
Yeah, I was looking at the zoning of CP Commercial Park. I guess it's no win, because if you don't do residential, then commercial is going to go there. What would they want the most, commercial or residential? Something's going to go there. So, yeah.
I think residential compact is a big jump for Pitch Kettle.
Say again?
I think the jump to compact, residential compact, is a big jump. I mean, I think residential is one thing, but the density is, personally, I'm having trouble piloting that big change, because the proposed development that was there before was, for the age restricted, was 150, about half the size. Is that correct, Kevin?
I believe it was 167 or so, yeah. So,
That was only on a portion of the
it was on a
property.
portion of the property, yeah.
Correct.
That is correct.
Correct.
Mr. Wyman, will you call for the vote, please?
Sir. Commissioners, please vote. Mr. Chairman, the motion does not pass or fails by a vote of 2 to 6.
Mr. Palmer, and your group, this will go to City Council on April 17th with a recommendation from this body for denial. The next item on our agenda today is a rezoning request, RZN 2024-002, conditional Parkwood. Mr. Wyman, will you read the caption, please?
Yes, sir. Rezoning request RZN 2024-002, conditional Parkwood, submitted by Bob Arnett, Coastal Virginia Partners, LLC, applicant and property owner, in accordance with sections 31304 and 31305 of the Unified Development Ordinance, to rezone and amend the official zoning map of the City of Suffolk to change the zoning from B2, General Commercial District, and M2, Heavy Industrial Zoning Districts, to RU18, Residential Urban 18 Zoning District Conditional, for property located at 612 Carolina Road, zoning map 34, parcels 83, 83B, and 84A. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Whaleyville voting borough, zoned B2, General Commercial District, M2 Heavy Industrial, and SCOD. That's our Special Corridor Overlay District, zoning districts. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as part of the Central Growth Area Core Support Use District. When you act on this request, you will be acting on a resolution to present a report and recommendation to City Council relating to rezoning request RZN 2024-002 conditional. Once again, Staff Planner Brittany Collier will present staff's report.
Thank you. As stated, this is a request to rezone the properties from B2 General Commercial Zoning District and M2 Heavy Industrial Zoning District to RU18 Residential Urban Conditional Zoning District to construct a townhome and/or multifamily development. The property up for discussion is located in the Core Support Use District in the Central Growth Area and is located approximately 1 mile from the downtown area. The subject properties are located on Carolina Road and consist of tax parcel 34*83 and 34*83D. Tax parcel 34*83 is currently split zoned B2 General Commercial Zoning District and M2 Heavy Industrial Zoning District, while tax parcel 34*83D is zoned B2 General Commercial Zoning District and SCOD Special Corridor Overlay District. To the north of the property is the Norfolk Southern Railroad and Southern Station Apartment, zoned RU, Residential Urban Zoning District. To the south of the property is the Southside Meadows subdivision, consisting of single-family detached residential homes, zoned RC, Residential Compact, and commercial businesses, zoned B2, General Commercial Zoning District. To the east of the property are single-family detached residential homes, zoned RM, Residential Medium Density Zoning District, and to the west is Carolina Road, industrial uses and vacant forested land, zone M2, Heavy Industrial Zoning District. In February 2024, a minor subdivision was approved and recorded that established the tax parcels 34*83C and 34*83D from the residue parcel 34*83. The applicant is requesting to rezone 16 acres from B2 General Commercial Zoning District to B2 General Commercial Zoning District, M2 Heavy Industrial Zoning District to RU 18 Residential Urban 18 Conditional in order to construct a townhome and/or multifamily development. The residential development is proposed to be located on tax parcel 34*83, which is the larger portion here. While tax parcel 34*83D will house a BMP, a future BMP that will serve a proposed Poldy trade school that will be located at the former Farmer Joe's grocery retail store. The subject properties are located within the Core Support Use District, which allows for a variety of housing types such as single-family, townhomes, stacked townhomes, small apartment buildings, and others. Overall, a range of housing types should be provided at a recommended density of 13 to 24 dwelling units per acre. The applicant has proffered that no more than 235 townhome and/or multifamily units shall be established as a part of this request, which would result in a net density of 15.6 units per acre. The overall proposed density of 15.6 units per acre is less than the maximum of 18 units per acre for the RU 18 zoning district and falls within the Core Support Use District recommendation of 13 to 24 units per acre. The requested conditional RU zoning district and proffered unit count are found to be compatible with the surrounded development and use patterns. A conceptual layout was provided in support of this application. However, it is not proffered and may be subject to change during site development process. The conceptual layout depicts 29 buildings ranging from 5 to 10 units for a total of 235 units. The proposed development would take access from a future right-of-way, which will provide connections to 3 existing residential streets, being Woodrow Avenue, Lewis Avenue, and Charlotte Avenue. The applicant will be required to meet all applicable design and layout standards established within the UDO for this type of residential development, and compliance with those standards will be reviewed at the time of development plan review. The comprehensive plan sets specific themes and policies related to land use, transportation, open space, and the environment that should be considered when contemplating a rezoning application. It's staff's opinion that the requested rezoning to RU 18 is consistent with the policies outlined in the 2035 comprehensive plan. Relevant to this application are the following. Policy 2-4, promote compatibility in land use patterns. The proposed conceptual layout demonstrates that the site has been designed with an interconnected walkable network of streets and small blocks that will feed into and maintain connection to Carolina Road and Cedar Street. Policy 6-1, encourage development of a balanced and diverse housing stock through the city. The proposal aligns with this policy as it would increase the city's inventory of attached dwelling units. Additionally, the development would work towards diversifying the city's housing stock by offering workforce housing in accordance with Policy 6-1C of the comprehensive plan. The Departments of Public Utilities, Public Works Engineering, and Public Works Traffic Engineering have reviewed this request and have no objections. Compliance will be reviewed at the time of development plan review. The subject properties are currently assigned to Lakeland High School, Kings Fork Middle School, and Kilby Shores Elementary School, as tax parcels 34*83 and 34*83D are presently zoned B2 and M2 heavy industrial. The parcel has no by right residential unit allowance to be counted towards impacts to schools. Additionally, as a specific unit type, single-family or multifamily, has not been proffered, the development will be assessed based on the most impactful use. In accordance with Section 31-601 of the Unified Development Ordinance, a development consisting of 235 single-family units would generate 43 elementary school students, 24 middle school students, and 31 high school students. After considering the current student enrollment, the total committed development, and the net students that are expected to be generated from the proposed development, the high school and middle school levels have sufficient capacity to absorb the additional students generated by this proposal. However, there is a deficit at the elementary school level. The current fiscal year 2025-2034 capital improvements plan contains a school replacement project for Kilby Shores that will create additional capacity at this impacted facility. As such, cash contributions towards the advancements of capacity may be accepted. To properly mitigate impacts to the elementary school levels, the applicant would need to provide a total cash contribution of $543,723.65. The developer has proffered this amount as a part of their proffer statement. On the next slide, you will see the voluntary proffers provided as a part of this request. The applicant has voluntarily proffered 7 conditions in support of this request. The first proffer outlines the total cash contribution to school impacts. The second proffer limits the development to a maximum of 235 townhome or multifamily units. Proffers 3 through 6 speak to the design elements of the development. Lastly, proffer number 7 pertains to traffic improvements, which states that the owner shall make road improvements as outlined in the approved TIA. As outlined in the approved TIA, the applicant will make the following improvements. Access will be provided via new roadway connection to Carolina Road. An exclusive northbound right turn will be constructed, and the new approach will include an exclusive left turn lane and exclusive right turn lane. The proposed development will make connections to 3 existing residential streets, being Woodrow Avenue, Lewis Avenue, and Charlotte Avenue. In summary, staff finds that the proposal meets the intent of the provisions of the 2035 Comprehensive Plan and the Unified Development Ordinance. The proposed rezoning from B2 and M2 to RU18 conditional zoning district aligns with the goals and objectives established within the Comprehensive Plan and the Unified Development Ordinance. The proposed zoning is consistent with surrounding land use patterns. Therefore, staff recommends approval with conditions of rezoning request RZN 2024-002. I'm available for any questions following the public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Collier. I will now open the public hearing. Who would like to speak in favor of this request?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name, again, is Grady Palmer, practicing at 999 Waterside Drive in the city of Norfolk. This project and the companion conditional use permit application that you'll consider later on your agenda for a trade school represents a great opportunity for investment in this area of the city to convert what you probably know is an old grocery store, vacant, boarded up as it stands right now, into a vibrant vocational education facility and new residential community that will be offered for sale at accessible price points for working families and individuals. And it'll be a mix of townhomes and multifamily, and we can talk about the price points if you have questions about that. But these homes will be for sale and will be modestly priced to be available for working families and individuals. And with close proximity to downtown and employment centers, the site represents a great opportunity to create this new affordable community where residents can live close to where they work. The rezoning would also, and your staff report talks about this, eliminate potential land use conflicts between the existing commercial and industrial zoning that's currently on the property with existing residential communities that are adjacent to the site. Also, this project will assist the city in making a more efficient road network by opening up 3 streets to easier access to Carolina Road. And so you can see that on the right side of the screen there, kind of. But with this project being approved and built, it will open up 3 of those streets immediately. Now, one of the things that this project will do in the future is the Hunter Street, which you can't see on there, is coming in this direction, will eventually line up with our main entrance road and would provide, and there are barriers to that we've got to figure out, but would provide a direct shot down Hunter to Carolina Road. That would be a major improvement for traffic efficiency in this part of Suffolk. So finally, if approved, Parkwood would contribute $1.5 million for the new elementary school at Kilby Shores and produce a surplus of $1.6 million per year for the city. So improved connectivity, enhanced educational resources for Suffolk, and more compatible land uses. All those things, I think, suggest that a recommendation for approval should be made and voted on today. We understand that this application's been fast-tracked to accommodate the needs of the community college, and the applicants will be scheduling a neighborhood meeting before the city council meeting. With that, I will be available for any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Palmer, is there anyone else to speak in favor of this request?
Good afternoon. My name is Sam Boraki, business address 5267 Greenwich Road. I'm the engineer on this project. I will stand by to answer any technical question. Thank you.
Anyone else? We'll now open it for opposition. Is anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition?
Greetings to the planning commissioners and staff. My name is Shamika Council. I reside at 210 Greenfield Crescent in Southside Meadows. I'm a teacher at Kings Fork High School, and I took a half a day to attend this public hearing. I'm aware of the new Paul D. Camp Trade and Technical Center, and I do believe it would be a benefit to our community. I'm aware of the new housing development that are in the plans to be built beside our community also. I have one major concern. There would not be any connectivity to the proposed community, and we don't have an emergency egress exit that would allow us to exit towards the proposed community. If there is an emergency at the front of the neighborhood at the 100 block, no one could leave for work, students could not go to school, nor can they receive medical attention if needed. This will have a negative impact on over 65 households in our community. When this community was built back in the late 1990s, there was supposedly have had an emergency egress exit actually at my backyard. In the back of my house, the street from South Suffolk goes straight to my fence. So I guess that was supposed to have been the emergency egress exit, but I guess the developers changed their mind. There was a storm on September the 21st, 2016, and the residents had to park their cars at the local gas station in the front. We will actually have to park the cars at the gas station, walk home in the rain, and then in the morning, if you have to go to work, walk back out to your cars. I had to do that because I had to go to work one day, so me and my two children had to walk to the front of the neighborhood because we have a sign that says, road closed. So I would have to walk and catch a ride from a teacher from North Carolina to go to Kings Fork High School. So, this is an inconvenience to the citizens who will have to park if we have another flood, which we did have one in August of 2021. Councilman Leotis Williams and City Manager Al Moore came out on a Sunday to assist us with this problem. It brought to my attention that we have had this problem in our community for over 20 years. However, we still don't have an egress exit, which, as I said, affect a lot of people. You got to think about the loss of wages when we can't leave our community. Kids can't go to school either. The buses cannot come in. I have pictures. I have video. I have students a child that was standing outside. The water was to her knees. And that's how bad that water is over there in the community. Since Councilman Leotis Williams has been our councilman, we have fixed it. But in my opinion, if we're gonna have a new community coming up beside us, we should be able to have an exit at the cul-de-sac that's near us. I'm not against the growth of the community, but in all fairness, the developers should have a conversation with the citizens within the community to hear our concerns and having an emergency egress exit that will connect to the new community. I strongly suggest that this matter be tabled today. I do understand it goes to council in the next 30 days. I hope we can see an amendment to the project. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Council. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition?
Christopher Dove, 852 Colonel Meade Drive, Suffolk, Virginia. My friend Kevin apparently deliberately tried to mislead this committee. Elementary schools and all schools are districted according to the UDO as their use areas designated by the schools. So therefore, a high school or a middle school in northern Suffolk does not impact the capacity of a middle school in central Suffolk, such as Kings Fork. I'm confused where the last zoning stated that Kings Fork Middle and High School did not meet capacity, yet during this one, apparently one of them does. I am very familiar with Kilby Shores Elementary School since my wife taught there for 15 years. Kilby Shores has been over capacity for 20 years. The plan is once again down the road 5 to 10 years or 6 to 10 years from now. This development is going to be built before 6 to 10 years from now. It will impact overcrowded schools. By approving this, once again, you will overcrowd the schools. That's my issue. Not that we have development. Development's good. In fact, this type of development is probably very needed. However, our schools are over capacity. There is one middle school that meets capacity, and that is JFK, because it's one of the most neglected schools in this district. There is, if you look at the projected approval by this committee and the city council, there is only one elementary school that meets capacity. That's Booker T. Washington. And there is no middle school or no high school that meets capacity. All the high schools are over capacity, no matter if you put them together or not. All schools are over capacity when you put them together. Kevin has neglected to tell you that. Right now, we have an insufficient amount of schools, public schools, to treat the children that we have now or planned. Additions will only exacerbate the situation, and that is specifically prohibited by the UDO. So I only ask you to go ahead and either put a restriction that they can build this development when the schools support it or deny it. Thank you.
Is anyone else to speak in opposition? That ends the time for opposition. Give you time for rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to point out that approving this project will actually advance the mission of getting Southside Meadows emergency access. So if you see the cul-de-sac there to the right of the screen, so Hunter Street's coming up, is planned to come up and intersect with that, the top of that cul-de-sac to provide them access to our main, which will be a public street access road. You can kind of see in the middle of the project right there. So actually approving this project will advance the mission of that. Now, there are some barriers, like I said, the barriers that have to be overcome and challenges that have to be overcome. But compared to leaving the site zone the way it is, there'll be no chance of this. So I think, in my opinion, this is the best chance to get that community a secondary emergency access by approving this new public road. And identifying the challenges or identifying the solutions to the challenges that exist to get Hunter extended to connect to this project. And I will just say, Suffolk has a very creative way of advancing capacity at its public schools. I mean, I deal with a lot of municipalities who accept cash proffers. Suffolk has the most taxpayer-friendly way of accepting cash proffers and shifting that financial burden to the private sector, and I applaud you for that. And obviously, they result in big proffer commitments. I mean, this is $1.5 million. The project that you just heard was $5.8 million. I mean, it doesn't take long to accumulate a significant amount of money from the private sector through your cash proffer policy, and particularly your advancement of capacity. So with that, I'll stand by for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Yes, I have a question for the young lady, if she would come back.
Ms. Counsel?
Did I hear you say that there's supposed to be an exit somewhere by your house that supposed to have been a way out? Another
Yes.
way out?
So I live in the curve back in Southside Meadows. And right in my backyard is Pastor Chambers' church. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what I would have to do, I would use that. I would drive my car up to my fence. I remove the panel so I can get into my neighborhood. So I can get in my house because it would flood in the front. From the front all the way around to the other side. So I was told that it was supposed to have been an emergency egress exit. And the street is already there. The street is there. My yard is big. I might sound kind of mean. They can buy my house. I don't have, the street is, I don't have no, they can. I don't have no personal attachments to it, but and it's wide enough. Honestly speaking, it is wide enough, and I'm just being honest, but it's not fair because beside me, I have a neighbor who has cancer, and she used the medical transport. And I'm saying if we have a situation in the front, you can't get out of that neighborhood at all.
All right. So whether we okay this or not, you still have that problem. Is that what you're saying?
Right. If
So
you okay and we don't have that connection,
Yeah.
we still deadlock in our community.
Right. So I heard the gentleman said it, sir, if you don't mind. Thank you, ma'am, for coming.
Yes, sir.
So, sir, you're saying that the best possibility for them to have an egress to be able to get out would be this plan here?
In my opinion, it would be, because what it will help, it will set up is, we're already making 3 street connections that you can see on the plan, and a future street connection could be connecting Hunter Street to our main access road. So that would provide relief to that cul-de-sac bulge.
Is that
there.
Valor Court? I'm just looking at it on Google. I like to name streets.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Let's just,
yeah, the one that's depicted, yes. On the
got it. So that would basically be able to take you theoretically all the way to Hosier Road or Factory.
Theoretically, like I said, there are challenges to getting that done that would need to be overcome.
No, I'm saying Hunter Street goes all the way.
Oh, yeah, Hunter Street does.
Okay.
Yeah, Hunter Street does.
Also,
Don't leave.
let me just have
Whatever you
my
do, don't leave.
civil engineer, since this is more of an engineering question, let him answer that question.
At one point in time, we submitted a plan which continue that the second portion of the property where we have that connections. Unfortunately, there is a 35-foot spike strip, and you could see that spike strip running along that property line. My client has not been able to acquire that spike strip. That's why that road is not connected. Other than that, the phase 2, which is what's called Dakota property next door, is going to be connected, and we have plans which we submitted to the city, and they seen that plan where that road connected Hunter Road, and that cul-de-sac is connected as well, and giving them a second connection beside that point. So in the future, everything, if that property get acquired, then that road can be connected. As far as drainage concerned, one thing we're doing on this property is we taking actually the drainage, we helping the flooding situation they have at the entrance of their subdivision, because we taking the drainage from this entire property and taking it across the street rather than going into the same outfall. We creating a new outfall across the street to help the drainage flooding in that neighborhood. We are aware of those, and we're working with the engineering department to come up with solution to these things.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sir, don't leave. Help me with this 35 feet, and help me with, can't get in touch with the people that are responsible for the 35 feet, because I can't vote with the almost.
Yes, that 35-foot strip is actually running from the street on top and coming down, and you see that cul-de-sac right there. There is a lot, and that 35 feet, a part of that lot. And my understanding is my client has, in various occasions, trying to contact the owner of that property to see if they sell it, and they will not sell it. And I don't know why, I don't know the reasoning. I'm not involved in the negotiation, but that's my understanding.
So the statement really isn't true. We don't have it because you can't get, you aren't able to so far get the property. So the connection is not there. The connection that we just almost promised that young lady isn't there.
The connection currently is not there. She's talking about a different connection on the back of the...
I know what she's talking about. She's talking about Webb Street, but you're talking about connecting Hunter and Valor, right?
Yes, ma'am. We were bringing Hunter Street, connecting it to that cul-de-sac you see right there, and connecting it to the main entrance, so there is access from Hunter Street to Carolina Road. And that, because of that spike strip, that 35-foot spike strip, that's not allowing us to do that. So that's where we felt to submit this plan due to the fact that the college need to be in place. They have funding, they have to be in place at certain time, or otherwise they lose their funding from the federal government. So that's why we split the project, and we provided a project to by splitting the project rather than keep on waiting till we're able to acquire that 35 feet. And that will be phase 2, basically.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Edwards, you have something you want to add?
I want to make sure Commissioner Hicks.
Go on, I'm not done, but I'll finish later.
Real quick, I saw a hand. I think a young lady in the audience, I think a young lady in the audience had a hand up. I just want to give her a come to the mic to speak if you had something to say.
Is she for or against?
I have no clue.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm the owner of that 507 property with the long 35 strip.
Oh, wow.
No one's been in touch with me, but I'm here. I've made contact with one of their consultants, and we can see we definitely need that access, as the teacher spoke to. Former educator here in Suffolk as well, and there were times where the water was so deep at our entrance, I couldn't make it to work. My kids couldn't, as she said, the buses can't get through, so we had definitely had flooding issues at the one and only entrance to our neighborhood. So I'm here, and I'm the one they're all trying to reach, but I haven't gotten hold of.
That's
Are
too
you for
funny.
or against it?
It don't even matter.
Pardon?
Are you for it?
I was curious. I did not understand. Unfortunately, my notice of this meeting got mixed up with some of my kids' mail, and I only read it this morning. So I have concerns, of course, with the school system. Having been an educator in the school system, we have overcrowding, and that is definitely an issue. I'm wearing, ironically, a Kilby Shores hoodie. I worked at Kilby Shores. That school is overcrowded. We've had kids there in mobile units. My kids went to the mobile units there. So that is a concern. We definitely need a second emergency egress there. I'm definitely willing to talk to help get Hunter Street, as long as it doesn't go through my living room, which they had previously planned, to get access. So that's all I have to say. I'm here and I'm happy
That's
to
a
talk.
lot to say.
And your name again, please?
Tiffany Antonucci, 507 Valor Court.
Thank you for the record.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I ask another question?
sure.
Hey, I guess it's Mr. Palmer. Mr. Palmer, all this information that you just spoke to us about Hunter Street and the 35 strip and the project itself, that was articulated clearly at the community meeting. Is that correct?
So we have not had a community, the applicant has not had a community meeting yet, just given the speed at which his application's moved, but we will do that.
Make sure I understand. We had a preview of it 30 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
We was previewed, City Council was previewed of it. That was 30 days ago. And you came to us without having a meeting with the adjacent communities. You connecting 3 roads, and you have somewhere in the bottom where they can't get connected because it's an invisible person that can't be found, that's been found in less than 24 hours. But this was showed 30 days ago. So help me understand, because I'm confused.
On why we didn't have a community meeting?
Sure.
Yeah, so the applicant did not have a community meeting because of the speed at which this was moving for the community college. Now, I can't tell you why they didn't have a meeting. They probably could have had a meeting. I'm not saying it would have been impossible. I'm just saying that's why they didn't have a community meeting, because the speed at which the application was moving.
I want to make sure I understand this. I say a phrase up here. You need to say that slow for my grandma, because my grandma watching on TV. Maybe so you say it slow for my grandma. We here saw this 30 days ago, this same application. It's at record speed going for what's going on at Paul D. Camp. In 30 days, it was not able to speak to a community to be able to make sure they get an overview of something that was happening in their community that's going to connect 3 streets, bring together another street, and you still have another community south of this project that's one way in and one way out, and they couldn't get the common decency of a meeting in 30 days.
No excuse.
So, and let me say this, and in light of the fact that we have found the landowner who has been on the back of the milk carton for 30 days. So make sure I understand now. So a lot of the problems of the 35-foot problem could be solved if we were able to have a conversation, and something could be more substantial in the future than if we can solve the 35 feet, we could do something. Is that correct? Because now she's here. So coming back in 30 days and saying we can't find her, we found her.
Public hearings are good at that.
Boy, we'll take it.
Community meetings are better.
So okay. Well, I appreciate.
We will continue, we will talk to her, and we will try to work it out to where that connection will be made.
Good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I offer a motion?
Yes, please.
Can we, let me move to table discussion on this whole matter for another 30 days.
Second motion.
Second. Any discussion on the motion?
I do have a question. Since you brought up, Ms. Palmer, I think it is, you brought up that you were facing a time element with the college. What impact would 30 days delay have on what's going on with the community college?
Well, I'll tell you, it would certainly not be ideal. I mean, we need to get this approved, if it's to be approved, for the college to keep their funding. I don't understand all that side of it, and I can't sit here and make representations to you about that, but my understanding is their funding is contingent on this project being approved. Would 30 days delayed, would that kill the project? I can't say that it would, but I don't know that for sure.
Kevin, we've got one, just real quick, we've got another item on here that I believe is dealing with the community college piece of this, right? Will there be someone there that could speak to, or is there someone here maybe representing the college for that portion that could comment on this 30 days? Do you know?
I do not see a representative from the college.
I'd like to ask the city attorney, could we act on the CUP portion of this property? It's only dealing with the bottom section there that's not colored on that overhead. And it doesn't deal with, well, it does deal with one street coming in. Could we deal with that? Because I understand there's a deadline with the funding for the school.
I don't believe the CUP is dependent on the rezoning. Is that correct?
They're separate parcels, separate uses, separate applications. The only way that they're intertwined is that the college development is reliant on the access that the rezoned parcel will provide. With that being said, it does have its own frontage on Carolina Road, but the rezoning exhibit provided to us does not take access from that. As such, there would be potential impacts to that. conditional use permit.
Does that sound like a nay as far as going with the school part?
Based on the information contained within the TIA for the college piece, that's correct. However, nothing would prohibit the college to continue to work with the owner of this rezoned piece for their access. So in that way, you could proceed, and the college would have to work with the owner of the north for access based upon the CUP that they presented for our consideration.
So basically, you could approve a CUP, but they could never get their site plan approved until they've worked out the access issues.
That's correct.
Do we work on
Mr.
tabling
Chairman,
this
Mr. Chairman,
portion?
can I just ask a question real quick, Mr. Chairman? I want to make sure I understand. So we could vote on the CUP for the college and not delay anything with the college. Now, the site plan information, but the whole time frame, it wouldn't slow it totally down?
Well, I don't know whether, I don't know whether their funding is dependent on the viability of the construction. They would have to answer that question. So if they don't have the proper access that the traffic engineer isn't going to approve their site plan, then their construction viability may not be there. But those details, I don't know. The college would have to answer that.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Mr. Palmer? Mr. Palmer, I'm sorry to ask you to keep them going up and down, because this wouldn't finally get approved until April with the city council anyway. We approve it today. So it's already 30 days out. So we at the situation with May for final approval. And I know you, like you said, you don't know the details about the Paulding Camp part. But is it, I mean, again, because I second the motion, so I guess you know where I'm leaning. But my question is, in fairness to the project itself, do you have anything to say before we do vote on tabling?
Yeah, and it's important to understand that from our perspective, it's all one project, and we need it to be considered to be one project, because without the residential community, coming on with the camp, we see it as a big mixed-use project, and so we would respectfully ask that you take both applications up today and send them to council with a recommendation, because one doesn't work without the other. I mean, our road network is on the residential side. The Paulding Camp Community College would utilize those roads, so having one without the other doesn't make any sense to us.
Mr. Palmer, you understand my frustration.
I do. I certainly do.
In the sense of, if this was such on a speed track, then the community meeting should have been one of the first criteria.
And I agree.
And so to put the time of the Paulding Camp and this thing more important than talking to the community, I think that's a bad precedent for me. I cannot speak for my fellow commissioners. That's a bad precedent that you're going to build something in someone's community and the community does not get the opportunity to hear the sides. Now, if the community supports it, doesn't support it, that's one thing. But they have the right to be able to be their views heard out, yours views heard out, so when we get here, it's cleaned up. And I'll just say this too. I do not like sending city council things that could be, we still need time. So I like it to go as smooth as possible at city council so they don't have to worry about shirts and people coming and making long nights. So I'm hoping that now that we found my lady, and now we know what the problem is with the 35 feet. Now, again, I know it might not be able to be set in stone in 30 days, but the community will have a whole much larger and a better timeline of possibilities, and you all will have more of a timeline of feasibility for us so when it goes through. And so that's why I stand on it. But again, like I always say, I always will listen to my commissioners. They can persuade me.
So if the will of the commission is to continue it, I would say both applications need to be continued for 30 days, because we don't see these functioning independently of one another. It's one big project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. I have a question for the city attorney. We're talking about a CUP on, we're talking about a rezoning request, I'm sorry, on land. But our whole discussion is about land that's not on this property.
So in order to connect to the Greenfield Crescent, there has the rest of, let's see, what is it, Hunter Street needs to be built. There are a couple of issues that impact that. One, this developer doesn't control, even if Mrs. Antonucci sells her portion, they still don't control the entire segment that has not been constructed for Hunter Street. There was litigation that involved Hunter Street that started before I started with the city, but was still going on when I started, that there was a developer that had planned to build a small community in that section, but city council wouldn't vacate the street. Through the course of that litigation, it was discovered that the houses on Valor Court crossed over, so there was some issue with the developer having built on land that they didn't own. So these houses, or at least a portion of their yards, were in the middle of what was platted as Hunter Street. So that portion of Hunter Street has been vacated, and the idea was at the time that the developer would come in and finish off Hunter Street and stub it out to the next property. That, for whatever reason, that project never came through. So it's, at this point, there's not much the developer can do to connect the existing Hunter Street to their development because it's across property that is not owned by anyone involved in this project.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
So will we accomplish anything by tabling this?
I don't know what the reason for tabling it, so I can't answer that question.
Mr. Chairman, can I speak? In the words of Aretha Franklin, who's zooming who? Because this started out now, we was just told that in phase 2, the plan was for all these streets. So now we're hearing, even if we push it aside, it doesn't matter because the land is not owned. So the phase 2 part isn't true. So in any scenario, from what I'm hearing now is, let's act like nothing happens. We're just gonna build more houses right up there at the Greenfield Crescent. They'll stay landlocked, but guess what? The workforce development must goes on, and they stay trapped in. So, again, is it not adjacent? No. But in the course of the conversation, the 35 feet became an issue because they brought it up. And now, in the course of the conversation, it doesn't matter. So I'm gonna say again, I don't know which one is it, and I don't know which one to believe. So I just hope in 30 days, or whatever we do, we get an answer.
Because we do have a motion on the floor.
My motion on the floor was to table. I have a real serious issue with the community not knowing anything until they come here. Essentially, I think that's unfair, and I'm not sure what's going on with the 35 feet. I'm not sure why you couldn't find the lady. I'm not sure what's happening with Hunter Street. It sounds like a whole lot of I'm not sure what's going on in this all of a sudden.
We'll give them 30 days to find out.
Somebody need to do something.
Okay, Mr. Ryan, you call for the vote, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioners, please vote.
So what is our vote?
Yeah.
Yes for tabling for 30 days.
Mr. Chairman, that motion is approved by a vote of 7-1.
So this motion, Mr. Palmer, you can get your crew together and reach out to the community and to the young lady who owned that property, and we'll see you in 30 days. The next item on our agenda is the conditional use permit request CUP 2023-019 Nassman Solar. Mr. Wine, will you read the caption, please?
Yes, sir. Conditional use permit request CUP 2023-019 Nansman Solar, submitted by Steve Kiesling, applicant on behalf of Harold E. Tweedy and R. Edward Tweedy, property owners, in accordance with sections 31306 and 31406 of the Unified Development Ordinance, to grant a conditional use permit to establish a ground-mounted solar energy facility on property located at 1553 Kings Fork Road, zoning map 24, parcel 32. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Holy Neck voting borough, Zoned A Agricultural Zoning District. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as part of the Central Growth Area Suburban Use District. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a resolution to present a report and a recommendation to City Council relating to conditional use permit request CUP 2023-019. Staff Planner Amy Mervine will present staff's report.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Planning Commissioners. This conditional use permit request before you today is to establish a solar energy facilities use at 1553 Kings Fork Road, which is located within the Central Growth Area Suburban Use District. The property is located in the A Agricultural Zoning District. To the north of the subject property is Kings Fork Road, followed by agricultural land zoned RE Rural Estate. To the east is forested land with a commercial structure zoned A Agricultural. To the west are vacant fields zoned A Agricultural and M2 Heavy Industrial. To the south are vacant fields zoned M2 Heavy Industrial and the Nansman Suffolk Academy Field zoned O&I Office and Institutional. The fenced project area will encompass 36 acres of the property with 32 acres of solar panel coverage. The conceptual layout depicts enhanced setbacks of 300 feet in the front and 100 feet on the sides. A 50-foot landscape buffer is proposed along the front and 25 feet along the side to minimize potential adverse visual impacts along the public right-of-way and adjoining properties. The nearest residence to the project's racking area is approximately 750 feet and over 800 feet from the inverters. Excuse me. In order to confirm that noise emitted by the proposed inverters will not exceed the city's performance standards in the UDO, the applicant prepared the enclosed sound level report and related attachments. The report's findings demonstrate that the highest simulated noise levels from the equipment pads measured at the nearest residential receiving properties remain well below the limits prescribed in the UDO regardless of the time of day during which noise from the facility will occur. There is a known cemetery on the northern portion of the property that will be left undisturbed. If the use is approved, protection of the cemetery will be reviewed during site plan review. The applicant provided visuals of the proposed landscaping from the public right-of-way and adjoining properties, beginning at the time of planting, 5 years, and 10-year increments. The haul route for construction and decommissioning of the solar facility is restricted to the ingress-egress of the site and going eastbound on Kings Fork Road to Pruden Boulevard. The haul route is restricted from utilizing Providence Road and Pitch Kettle Road. The haul route is a proposed condition of the use if approved. The proposed use is not anticipated to produce any adverse impacts, but is inconsistent with the Central Growth Area Suburban Use District of the Comprehensive Plan, which encourages traditional residential subdivisions at a lower density and retail uses primarily neighborhood scaled. It is staff's opinion that the site in question is not appropriate for the proposed use given the location within the Central Growth Area of the Comprehensive Plan. Therefore, staff recommends denial of conditional use permit request CUP 2023-019. Should the conditional use permit application be approved, staff has recommended several conditions listed within the staff report. This concludes my presentation, and I will stand by for any questions after the public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Mervine. I will now open the public hearing. Who would like to speak in favor of this request?
And I have some updated site plan renderings here, if anyone would like to look at them. Chairman Singleton, Commissioners, my name is Patrick Harper. I'm a project developer with Cypress Creek Renewables, speaking to you today on behalf of the Nansemond Solar team. We are very excited about this project. But let me open with a brief word about Cypress Creek, who we are and what we do best. We develop, own, and operate solar, standalone storage, and hybrid facilities across the U.S. We're headquartered in Santa Monica, California, closer here to Suffolk. We have offices in Durham, North Carolina, and up the road in D.C. Since our founding in 2014, we've developed over 800 projects across 23 states, representing more than 12 gigawatts of generating capacity. We're also the fourth largest solar O&M provider in the U.S. We manage hundreds of our own facilities and projects developed by third parties as well. So that's the development experience our team is bringing to this project, tried and true. And our approach to development is pretty simple. We develop responsibly sited projects, responsibly designed projects, projects that are aligned with community interest, and projects that provide a broad range of benefits to their host communities. We develop projects where they just make sense, and we believe that's the case here. Now, I'd like to thank Ms. Mervine for her staff report and all of staff who've reviewed this application and helped us make it the strongest proposal and project possible. Staff have done a phenomenal job here, and we agree with almost all of their assessment. This project poses no risk of adverse impacts to public health, safety, comfort, or general welfare. No impacts from noise, odor, dust, or traffic. No impacts to the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring properties. And barring its location within the central growth area, it's in the public interest and well aligned with the ordinance and comprehensive plan. Now, we even agree that in general, solar projects, even small ones like this one, aren't the best use of land in a growth area. However, not all land in the central growth area is created the same, nor should it be treated as such. Just last year, a similar project to ours was approved in the central growth area. Why? Because it warranted it. And we think that's the case here for 3 reasons. Before I get to them, I just want to briefly touch on one aspect of the project's design. Nansemond Solar is a 5 megawatt, 36 acre community scale solar project. It'll be set back 300 feet from Kings Fork Road, a football field, and it'll feature a 50-foot landscaping buffer within that setback to fully screen the project from views off site. And the site's front acreage will be preserved for future crop production. So when you drive down Kings Fork Road, you're gonna see cotton, depending on the time of year, native shrubs and trees, and a handful of new utility poles for our interconnection equipment. The important thing about this design is tailored to reflect the feedback that we've gotten from the community. And that feedback is folks don't want to see solar panels. We've heard that loud and clear. And folks are very concerned that solar projects are going to impact the character of the community. But what's interesting here and what makes this situation unique is that this area is about to change drastically with the development of Port 460, which directly abuts our project parcel to the south and to the west. So for the 3 reasons why we feel like this project just makes sense in this location, number 1, given its design and Port 460, this project will help protect and preserve the local area's aesthetic and community character. When you drive past the site today, you see crops and trees. When you drive past the site after our project is built, what are you going to see? Crops and trees. This is the perfect transitionary land use, the perfect buffer between 5 million square feet of industrial warehouses and all the activity that entails, and the residential areas to the north of Kings Fork Road. Number 2, it's also unique in that we can create this value while not contributing to the area's second biggest issue, traffic. Truck traffic on Route 460 is anticipated to increase by 90% over the next 10 years. After our project's 4 to 6 months construction period, it'll generate a dozen or so vehicle trips a year for routine maintenance and inspections. That's it. Number 3, our project is being developed under a lease agreement with the property's landowners and will be fully decommissioned at the end of its useful life. meaning all of the equipment will be removed and the property will be restored as close to possible to its pre-development condition. So there's a defined point in time where the landowners and the community can come back together to decide what happens next here. And maybe it does make the most sense for a suburban use at that point. That's very unique from a development perspective. So what we have here is a proposal that preserves the area's local aesthetic and character, protects its neighbors by serving as a buffer between two incompatible land uses, protects its neighbors from the area's second biggest issue, traffic, and guarantees the land won't be used for more intense type of development while also preserving its future development potential. It just makes sense. But you don't have to take our word for it. I have personally spoken to 78 neighbors and community members about this project. We have held a community meeting. We have spoken to community groups like the Isaac Walton Conservation League. We met one-on-one with key stakeholders like Nansemond and Suffolk Academy, who would be happy to have us as a neighbor. And after folks understood what we're proposing, the setbacks, the screenings, the crops, the benefits, and saw our commitment to being the best neighbor possible, even folks that aren't fans of solar agreed they'd rather see this property used for our project than a more intense type of development, a commercial development, a residential development that is only going to make traffic in the area worse. So let me close by highlighting the project's other benefits. For some local residents, this project will provide direct energy savings. Nansemond Solar will generate clean, emissions-free electricity for over 800 homes. Through Dominion's shared solar program, low to moderate income households can subscribe to the electricity generated and save 10% on their utility bills. This is a savings product for community members who need the help the most with the highest energy burden. And by approving this project, we can help get as many Suffolk residents as possible signed up. This program has limited capacity. For the city, it'll generate over $1 million in new tax revenues while posing no corresponding burden on services like schools. For the community, it represents over $7 million in project spending where we'll be using local labor and materials to the extent possible, including a $676,000 investment to help strengthen and modernize the grid. We've also already made a $10,000 donation to Project Homes to provide weatherization services for LMI households in the Suffolk area, and look forward to other partnership opportunities like that. So we encourage the Commission to recommend approval of this project. It's a unique location. It's a unique project. It provides a unique range of benefits. It just makes sense. Thanks, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. That completes the time for the proponents. Do we have anyone in opposition to this project? Seeing none, hearing none. Mr. Harper, do you have any other comments you would like to make?
No, I'd just like to thank the Commission for their time and consideration. And we do have one of the property owners here with us, Mr. Harold Tweedy, who'd like to say a brief word.
Good afternoon. My name is Harold Tweedy. My current address is 600 Eagle Lake Trail, apartment 2317 in Rome, Georgia. My brother and I are the property owners of this land. We both have many fond memories of many visits to Suffolk, and especially to this property, where our grandparents and then our aunt lived until their deaths. We then inherited the property following our own mom's passing in 2014. Respecting what we know were their wishes, we have every intention of remaining responsible stewards of this land and being the best neighbor possible to the folks that live and work there. And many of them, I'm sure their parents remember our grandparents because they lived there most of the 1900s. We see the property being used for community scale solar as a financially responsible decision for our own families that will allow us to meet our needs today, but it also allow the land to remain in the family without us having to sell for some other development purposes. It's also very important to us, as I've said, because of our family's long history in Suffolk and the community, that we sincerely believe the property's use for solar provides many benefits that Patrick has mentioned, including energy savings, city revenues, private sector investment, and if I were a neighbor, I'd also view it as very positive because it really provides a long-term protective hedge against undesirable development, heavy commercialization, and other development on the property, given its location in the very edge of the growth area. While we've entertained various types of interest in developing the property over the 10 years since my mother passed away, as Patrick mentioned, we see solar being unique in that it does pose no traffic, pollution, noise, no view shed issues with the setbacks, and especially the fact that Cypress will be leasing the entire property, only using about 30 acres for the footprint, so the remaining land can continue to be potentially farmed and or be some other type of green space development. It won't just be paved over commercial asphalt. And important to us also is it does allow the land to remain our family. As I said, we have a long and happy history with Suffolk. We decided to work with Cypress and selected them over 20 inquiries we had from other solar companies because we believe Cypress has the same values that we do: responsible development and being the very best neighbor possible. And we've already personally seen this in our conversations with NSA, where they've indicated they may need a back road access to their campus in the future that could involve crossing our land. And I just want to point out, Cypress has been totally on board with that discussion and even made some tweaks in their original design proposal that would allow that type of easement to be granted and accommodated in the future if NSA does require it. We, and as you can tell, I think Cypress really look forward to continuing to explore additional ways to benefit Suffolk and benefit the local community and give back to the community as much as possible. My brother and I therefore respectfully ask that the Planning Commission approve the application based on its benefits for the community, the positive feedback Patrick has received. My brother did attend several of those meetings and conveyed that information to me, that there was considerable positive feedback, but Also, I think important to us is we ask you and respectfully ask you to honor our rights as property owners, to use the property for things which will be able to benefit the community as well as maintain our ownership. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Tweedy. I will now close the public hearings. Commissioners, comments or a motion? Or a question?
I have a question. I guess for the gentleman that came up to talk the project.
Harper.
Sorry, yes, thank you. So the parcel is 58 acres, and you're going to be using about 36. Where, and I just want to be realistic, got a little bit of farming background in my family, like where could the farming potentially be? I mean, we're talking very small scale, so I don't see how tractors will be really, are we talking row crops between Kings Fork and where the fencing would be?
Yes, ma'am. Between the landscaping buffer and Kings Fork Road, we'll have about 250 feet of clearance. I don't know the distance between our access aisle and the eastern boundary, but from what the mapping I've done, we're looking at between 6, maybe 8 acres. So you're correct. It's not a lot of land. We've had some preliminary discussions with the farmer who's currently farming the property. He said, sure, he'd be interested. And I have some ideas about how we could potentially take that income and then reinvest it back into the ag community here in Suffolk.
Do you have any buffering pictures? And I apologize if they were already up there before. No.
Yeah, there are a few, but they're not particularly close up. I would say, yeah. So you can hear it's showing the view from the street. So we're 250 yards away from the buffer. And how this will work is we have a preliminary landscape plan that we've submitted with our application that meets all the standards of the zoning ordinance. And during site plan, we'll be working hand in hand with the city to determine exactly what shrubs and trees we're using. We've already gotten some great input from community members at our meetings about what grows best here and what doesn't. So we're going to be taking guidance from the state, the Virginia Pollinator Smart Program, guidance from the city, and then guidance from local community members about how we go about this landscaping to make it the most effective possible. But I can tell you from my experience in other projects, 50 feet of landscaping, we can fully screen this site. I have no concerns about that. Now, on day one, typically our plantings will be 6 feet. If you use trees that are higher than that, they're less likely to successfully grow and reach maturity. So it's finding that balance between sufficient height at day one and ensuring that they're viable long term. And we'll also be putting a landscaping bond in place. In the event that there were plantings that did not succeed, we'd be responsible for going back and replacing them. You're welcome.
Goodman?
Yeah, so you say you had community meetings?
Meeting.
A meeting.
Great point. Yes, sir. We had a community meeting, and we've spoken to other community groups. Whoever would invite us, whoever would give me a couple minutes.
Oh, I was just wondering. I was talking to someone in the community, and I asked, had he been to a meeting? Had he heard anything about it? He said he saw the sign, but he hadn't heard anything about it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to get his contact information. Check his address, but I have personally knocked on every door within a quarter mile of this project parcel, west of Pruden, and I spoke to 36 people. It took me 2 days to do that. I spoke to 36 people. Anyone that didn't answer, a lot of people don't because I'm a stranger knocking on their door. I get that, so I just left some materials for them, had information about our project and our contact card, and just encouraging them to reach out to us. But it is possible that there are folks that live outside of that quarter mile.
He stays right down the street.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Maybe,
So
yeah.
There's a chance he didn't. We had a door hanger and another flyer that I attached to it. There's a chance he just didn't get it for whatever reason or didn't realize what it was. But I'd be happy to speak to him.
Any other question for Mr. Hopper while he's,
I have a quick question.
okay, Mr. White?
Mr. Harper, could you outline the changes on the revised site plan? Because staff has not reviewed that.
So what staff has seen includes all the updates. The rendering here that I was referencing includes the front acreage for crop production. So the site plan that staff has seen is the latest version with the stormwater BMPs built in.
Okay, so this would be an additional exhibit, but not the site plan incorporated with the ordinance, correct?
Correct.
This is just a
this
complimentary visual.
This is solely a rendering of the project, and it's what we've used at our community meetings. It's what I've handed out to neighbors whenever I knocked on their door and couldn't get an answer. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harper. Commissioners?
I just have a comment, Mr. Chairman. We've spent many hours of going through planning, of future planning, future land use studies, and getting the views of citizens and also developers for the upcoming comprehensive plan. One of the things that I think has come up is that the smart planning part of all of this is looking at the types of projects that we have to look at as commissioners, and also as the next step would be the city council. The biggest hang-up with this is the location of where it is. And I know we've been going back and forth on this for different projects. And this, when I say the location is that, and this is why the planning department has recommended denial because of where it is in the central growth area of the comprehensive plan. Once this is developed as a solar farm, that solar farm is going to be there for a long time. It would prevent any other development on this particular piece of property over that period of time if anybody comes in. I know that you all probably have had a number of inquiries over the years about people coming in and wanting to develop that area for various uses. But the problem that I have is that we spend a lot of time on putting these areas in as to where we think, or where the city thinks, that development is going to take place, residential development, commercial development, and all that sort of thing. So for that reason, at least from my perspective, I think we need to abide by what we've already got in place. And again, it comes back to the location. I don't have a problem with the solar farms as such, because I think we're going to be needing this looking down the road, but it's just the location of this one. Thank you.
Is that a motion?
I guess the motion would be, would agree with the denial of the, well, which one is it? It's the a CUP 2023-019.
Got a motion for denial. Did I get a second?
Second the motion.
Got a second. Any discussion on the motion? Ma'am, you call for the vote, please. And a yes vote is for denial.
Commissioners, please vote. Mr. Chairman, the motion is approved by a vote of 7-1.
This will, Mr. Harper, will go to City Council with a recommendation from this body for denial at their April 17th meeting. The next item on our agenda is getting close to home for me. Conditional use permit request, CUP 2024-001, TLW Materials. Mr. Wyman, you read the caption, please.
Yes, sir. Conditional use permit request, CUP 2024-001, TLW Materials, submitted by Bobby Wynn, TLW Materials LLC applicant, on behalf of South Key Concepts LLC property owner, in accordance with sections 31306 and 31406 of the Unified Development Ordinance, to grant a conditional use permit to establish a surface mining borrow pit operation on property located at 6501 and 6701 Holy Neck Road, zoning map 49, parcels 58*12 and 58*12B. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Holy Neck voting borough, Zoned A, Agricultural Zoning District. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as part of the Rural Agricultural Use District. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a resolution to present a report and a recommendation to City Council relating to conditional use permit request CUP 2024-001. Once again, Staff Planner Amy Mervine will present staff's report.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Planning Commissioners. This conditional use permit request before you today is to establish a surface mining borough pits use at 6501 and 6701 Holy Neck Road. The subject property is located in the A Agricultural Zoning District, which requires a conditional use permit to allow the surface mining borough pits use. The requirements for borough pits are set forth in Chapter 34, Article 9 of City Code. To the north of the subject property is Holy Neck Road, followed by a commercial and detached single-family dwellings, zoned A Agricultural. To the east and west are vacant field and forested land, zoned A Agricultural. To the south are detached single-family dwellings, zoned agricultural. This slide shows the original exhibit that is attached into the staff report dated February 15th, 2024. This slide shows the revised amended exhibit after the staff reports had been sent out. If approved with the new conceptual exhibit, number 3 of the proposed conditions would need to be amended to include the new exhibit dated March 14th, 2024. The new exhibit shows the western borough pit entrance shifting farther east away from the residential dwellings, showing the haul route and a typical landscape buffer detail. The applicant is proposing to establish a surface mining borough pit use, one of which will contain 33 acres and the second 31.79 acres for a total of 64.79 acres in order to extract fill sand, topsoil, fill dirt, and clay. The applicant proposes to operate Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., with 6 to 7 employees. This exhibit demonstrates a 100-foot buffer along each of the property boundary lines and additionally a 50-foot vegetated buffer to be provided along the public right-of-way. The wetlands located on the properties are not going to be impacted as part of this use. The surface mining operations are proposed to last for approximately 7 years. Upon completion of the surface mining use, the land will be returned to agricultural or forested land and lakes where depth is appropriate. The ingress-egress to the sites are from Holy Neck Road and will be gated at all times. The haul route, as approved by Public Works Traffic Engineering, is along eastern Holy Neck Road to South Key Road to US 58. Approximately 100 trucks per day are proposed per site for a total of 200 trucks per day. The public right-of-way will be kept free and clean of debris, as noted within the operations plan. The haul route and operations plan are proposed conditions of the use within the staff report. I'll go back. It is staff's opinion that the site in question is appropriate for the surface mining borough pits use in the proposed location. With proposed conditions and design standards for borough pit operations, the use is not anticipated to adversely impact the surrounding neighborhood. Therefore, staff recommends approval of CUP 2024-001 with the modification of condition number 3 of the updated conceptual layout dated March 14th, 2024. This concludes my presentation, and I will stand by for any questions after the public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Mervine. I will now open the public hearing. Excuse me. Who would like to speak in favor of this request?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of Planning Commission. I'm Amy Bokikio with Land Planning Solutions located at 5857 Harborview Boulevard. I'm joined this afternoon by Melissa Venable from LPS, the borrow pit operator, Bobby Wynn, as well as the property owner. We are proposing 2 borrow pits as stated, and I'd like to return to the comprehensive plan map. I'd like to emphasize that while the project location was pointed out previously, this is a very rural and agricultural area of southwest Suffolk, roughly 3 miles from the Southampton County line, as well as 6 miles from Holland Village. Thus, the property is far outside of the city's growth areas and outside of the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Overlay District. Additionally, the site is not within a conservation area. A significant forested buffer is proposed around most of the perimeter of the property. Our proposed borrow pit locations shown in pink occupy about 90% of the cleared portions of the front of the property. So we are encroaching into the buffer just as minimally as we need to. Areas along our frontage that lack existing vegetation will be supplemented with new landscape for a depth of 50 feet, and that will consist mostly of evergreen trees as well as a few deciduous trees to offer an attractive streetscape along the roadway. We are proposing sand pit setbacks of 100 feet, and that is 4 times the city's minimum standard for this type of land use. Mr. Wynn has operated sand pits for over 20 years, and he's provided a detailed operations plan that was part of your report. While there are several precautionary procedures outlined in his report, I would like to point out that if any silt were to be deposited on public roadways, he does have a street sweeper available to take care of that cleanup the same day. The sand pits will offer additional jobs and local revenue for the city of Suffolk as a result of extraction fees. We strongly believe that it's best that these raw materials are extracted within the city of Suffolk to support local construction projects rather than outsourcing the materials from other nearby states, which would generate additional traffic without the local economic benefit. Please note that once the borrow pit operations cease, which we're estimating about 7 to 10 years depending on the market demand for the material, the property can be utilized for agricultural purposes once again. This site is not directly located on a highly visible corridor. We're set back about a quarter mile from South Key Road or South Quay, however you choose to pronounce that. I know it's a little controversial. But we feel that this setback from that main roadway is very appropriate, and it allows us to have easy access without being too restricted. We worked closely with traffic engineering to determine the best haul route. If you'll refer to the exhibit, our entrance is in the top right corner of your exhibit, and that's the intersection of South Key to Old South Key, and then trucks would travel south towards Holy Neck Road and make a right-hand turn. This route avoids any substandard country roads in the area, as well as any problematic intersections. With regards to the timing, the borrow pit on the east is expected to be utilized first, and then after a few years, we would begin utilizing the borrow pit that's on the western side of this exhibit. The applicant volunteered to make some off-site improvements, which is not customary for a conditional use permit. That was their option to do so in working with traffic engineering. They have offered to extend the pavement for the turn lanes at Old South Key and South Key to the ultimate length of 200 feet, as well as the tapers an additional 200 feet. And that would make traffic in this area, easily accessible, and it would offer, benefits for residents and farmers out in this part of Suffolk for many years to come, in addition to just the temporary traffic that's associated with the borrow pits, which is pretty minimal. After distribution of the commission's staff reports and a second review of this project, we did closely look at the entrance that we were proposing on the western side of the site, and we decided to shift that as far to the east as possible without encroaching into the wetlands. So by shifting that entrance here on this exhibit, we are also reducing the amount of travel time for trucks coming off of the main roadway. I'd also like to mention that nearby property owners were notified about this project through two means. The initial letters that the City of Suffolk provides as part of their public hearing process, as well as separate letters that are mailed in conjunction with the Department of Environmental Quality. And Mr. Nguyen has spoken to a few of those property owners that expressed some concern, so we've worked through that. In conclusion, we believe that this particular project, this particular borrow pit project, has many positives given its rural location in the city, the protected wetlands and large buffers that we're offering that are well above and beyond the minimum standards, as well as the optimal alignment that we've achieved with our site entrances, and the off-site intersection improvement, which is not always being proposed with a conditional use permit. Overall, the ability to reuse this retired farm property for material extraction is a great use of local resources, and it provides additional jobs and tax revenue and economic benefit to the city compared to if this material was being brought in from another location. We hope that you'll look favorably upon this application. We appreciate your time and thought put into reviewing the staff report. And I would just like to reiterate what Ms. Mervine stated, which is we'd like for condition number 3 to be revised slightly just to cite the new updated date on our exhibit, which is the exhibit shown right now. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and Ms. Venable would like to offer a few statements as well, some additional thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Amy.
Good afternoon, Commissioner, Planning Commissioners. Chair and Planning Commissioners. My name is Melissa Venable with LPS 5857 Harborview Boulevard in Suffolk. I want to thank you all for your service to our community. You are doing a fine job, and I appreciate the time and efforts that you put forth. I just quickly wanted to add that the current property owner, which he had noted to me as we've been working together, he has several agricultural tracts in the vicinity. They have, as a team, purposely kept those agricultural farmlands intact and have never subdivided off of any of the public road frontage that they have for residential. So this is a temporary condition with the two phases that we're showing. The lower phase furthest away from the two residential units would likely be developed first. The time frame on that is 3 to 5 years, and then into the second area, 3 to 5 years. So temporarily, at most, this is a 10-year use, then converting back to agriculture. And I think it's important to note that that is important to us, that this farmland stays as farmland, and this is a use that, again, is just temporary. I'll stand by for additional questions and look forward to talking with you further.
We have 2 minutes left for the proponents, if any. If not, we will open the floor for opposition.
Hello, Thomas Irwin. I live at 9424 South Key Road. From my front door, I can see the Highland Sand Pit, which is existing. And from my front door, if it weren't for a few trees over a large tract of wetlands, I'd be able to see the Holy Neck site. Our community's totally dependent on wells. We don't have city water, sewage. We don't want city water. We don't want city sewage. There's quality life living out in the country, and we love it. We love it here in Suffolk. Been here for 15 years. My concern is these pits are not only pits, outgoing materials, they become a disposal area. They become an industry. I've worked in construction around this area for the last 20 years. I've personally loaded trucks heading to the Highland Sand Pit. Reaching out through the city, I found out the city has no involvement at all with these pits. They turn it over to the Department of Energy. I've been in contact with the Department of Energy, and they do periodic inspections. Very generic, one paragraph. I'll leave them here for your review, but it's basically, okay, their permit is posted, the roadways are being maintained, no dust flying in there, nothing tracking out in the road. Very generic. They're not looking at all at the disposal portion of it. And I'm telling you, it's large. I spoke with Paxton, who owns the Highland Sand Pit, just trying to educate myself on these sand pits, reading up, reviewing. The Department of Energy has informed me that quarterly these pits are required to do a self-inspection, honor system. Inspect yourself, send us our report, and we'll look at it. They become an industry as material comes in. If it's good, we're going to put it over here, we're going to resell it, Concrete, they're allowed to do concrete processing on site. But my biggest concern, speaking with Paxton, okay, nothing's leaving our pit. Above ground, I'm sure nothing's leaving our pit. Our base is shell and clay, I was told. Earth moves. It moves. When you drain your swimming pool, that little 3/4 hose, in the summer, watch how quickly at fall you can drain your pool. A lot of water, gravity and water is going down. What's down? The aquifers are down. The supply to our wells in Holy Neck, South Key are in the ground. We don't know. Water qualities and soil sampling are not required at these places. So we don't know. We don't know what's being put in these pits. And, that's a big concern. Short term, maybe no, but long term, you read all too often about these certain communities having a higher percentage of cancer rates. Or is situations like this, perhaps the cause, unregulated. Some cities require that you put monitoring wells surrounding these pits, so they can, periodically test, but nothing like that here in Virginia, Suffolk. It's basically, here's your pit, good luck. I was also told by the contractor that they rely on geotechnical borings from the sites they're receiving this stuff from. A large site like the high-rise bridge project, if they're hauling, they're not doing geotechnical borings all over that site. They're putting it in a truck and they're sending it to Highland. They're going to send it to Holy Neck, and it's unregulated. We don't know what's in that stuff. And I would encourage y'all as this commission to, let's probe into it. Let's find out what we're dumping, what we're going to sit on for the next 50, 100 years. What are we putting in the ground? What's the effect it's going to have on the community, the well? Are we going to have a health and public safety issue out in South Key? This site's surrounded by wetlands. Those wetlands come up through a big culvert underneath South Key and to some ponds that end up on 189. So, it's a large wetland. Your survey shows a portion of it. The rest of it, they're showing out of proximity. They're all interconnected. So, if you can contaminate what you're showing on your survey, there's a good chance you're going to contaminate all the way up to 189. So, unregulated, for profit, if I had a dump truck and I showed up at these pits with a $100 bill, they might look at my stuff, but if I got that $100 bill, they're going to tell me to back up and dump it. I know how they work. I've been around. Yeah, so nobody's looking at it. No testing. We don't know. Yeah, I think it would be the city, the state, somebody's responsibility to know what we're putting in the ground out there. It's a landfill. Basically, it's a landfill, and we don't know. So, that's just one reason. The traffic, I see 200 dump trucks down my road every day, heading to the Highland Sand Pit, and then they come back out. Any traffic going to this pit from the south is going by my road. If you look at your plat, Coming off 58, heading west towards Franklin, it's not a direct 90 left turn. It's almost I'd say maybe 120, So when I turned down to see the signs for the conditional use permit, it threw me off key. Wow, that's not a left turn. I don't normally take that route, but it's more of a U-turn. Not really a U-turn, but close. Truck drivers are going to do the same thing. If they're coming off of my road, South Key, from the south, and they take a right to get to Holy Neck Pit, it's right there. Holy Neck, South Key are, a couple hundred feet away, if that. So they're going to come out slowly into a highly trafficked 58. We know what 58 is, and they're going to be going slow. So left turns, they're going to be slow, confusing. We all know the back roads here in the city weren't made for heavy trucking. So the shortcuts are going to be found. It's going to be New Road. It's going to be Holy Neck. And, add to the cluster. I could go on and on. I'm not going to do that to you. But, please put some thought into the environmental aspect of it. Pit's located in the middle of a large wetland, unknown disposals. And let's think about it before we cast this vote and arbitrarily allow a pit within sight, if there weren't for a few trees, of an existing pit. Not one pit, but two pits we're going to allow. So please consider it. I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, I'll try.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. Anyone else?
For your time. I am a homeowner. I own 6780 Holy Neck Road. Although I appreciate the...
Will you give us your name, please?
Oh, Amanda Crumpler, I'm sorry. Although I appreciate the March 14th addendum to the proposal directing the traffic now to the right, I have to question who's going to monitor that the trucks abide by that. We're talking 200 dump trucks is what's suggested a day going past possibly our homes. If they realize if they just come out of the pit and turn left, they can get to 58 much quicker. I guess I'm concerned who's going to monitor that and who's going to instruct the drivers coming in. If they put it in their GPS system, I'm sure it's going to direct them off of 58 right past our homes instead of going all the way around. It's a shorter direct route. So I'm concerned about the traffic. Although I appreciate Mr. Wynn has potentially reached out to some homeowners, I have not personally heard from him. He did not reach out to me. He could have accessed that information on the city tax records, but he did not attempt to do that. I'm also concerned because of Paxton's sand pit that's active now is less than 2 air miles away from where these are proposed to be. Those dump trucks also are dumping out on 58. So I'm concerned logistically how close another sand pit is. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. I'm also concerned about the environmental impact. As the prior gentleman mentioned, we all are on well water. I know that the proposal that I downloaded off the city site said that they were going to permit them to dig 10 plus or minus feet. The water table does begin to be affected at 12, so I'm concerned that we've got a very low margin there, and who's going to monitor that with all of us being on wells. I'm concerned about the noise. I'm really concerned about the noise. I'm concerned about my air quality from the dust that these sand pits kick up. I actually sat with my dad for quite some time at the Paxton sand pit, just kind of observing, kind of getting an idea what I would have to expect. And the dust is constant in the air, so I am worried about air quality being affected. And really, I guess, last, I'm concerned about the financial impact that this would have on our homes. You know, our homes are our investments, and I do feel like this is going to make our homes be devalued quite substantially. So, again, I thank you for your time. I think that's probably about it. I'll share some of the time with someone else. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else?
My name is Daisha Smith, 8353 Pineview Road, Suffolk. I'm going to be referencing a document as I speak, like page 1, page 2. The document I'm referencing is the February 28th, 2024 Operation Plan, Sand, Fill, and Removal. On page 7, there's an acknowledgement of groundwater encountered at 12 feet with plan on how to handle the encountered groundwater on the property by dewatered gravity flow or pumping back into the collection basin. 2 points. How will altering the flow and collection of the groundwater alter the flow, level, and location of groundwater accessible to the surrounding residents, our farmland, the irrigation needs, and our farm animals or livestock water accessibility needs? Is there a plan in place for the potential disruption of water access due to this proposed mining? 2, second point. Once you encounter this groundwater at 12 feet, will they stop digging? The proposal verbiage leaves one to think that the pit will be between 10 and 12 feet. However, upon meditation on how it is actually written, the company is only asking permission to dig 10 plus feet, with just acknowledgement of encountering groundwater at 12 feet, with the proposal of handling the water issue on their property, not an acknowledgement that they will halt mining depth once it is encountered. On page 9, there's an acknowledgement of wetlands and forested area. The environmental impact survey was waived. I know that we are not part of the Chesapeake Bay Conservation Watershed. However, that does not mean that our water sources are not important or insignificant. Okay. Here in this basket is the environmental impact statement when to prepare for an EIS. Thank you. Reclamation point. After 7 years of excavation, on page 4, agencies will be contracted as needed. However, how will we best be able to return this land to what is best for or in line with the City of Suffolk's comprehensive plan if input from our Suffolk agencies is not required? If there's no environmental impact survey performed, how do we know how to have proactive plan in place of possible risks to aid in these reclamation efforts? Does anybody else want to go? I can step down. There's one, sorry, I only leave with you with 32 seconds. I had more about traffic. Thank you.
My name is Wendy Wild. I live at 9190 Southwestern Boulevard. But prior to my move to Southwestern, I lived at 5709 Holy Neck Road, which is just up the street from that. When I lived on Holy Neck Road, I can personally attest to the road conditions, particularly at that intersection where that V is. I used to be a runner until I broke my lower back. And I many a day played a game of Frogger on Holy Neck, diving away from not only residential traffic, but heavy truck traffic. So besides that, you know, some of the statements I heard in the positive impacts on the community, well, I'd like to know who those people are as member of this borough in Suffolk. And 6 to 7 jobs. Wow, that's just a lot. Again, 200 trucks a day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Saturday from 7 a.m. to noon. We're also assuming that no one's going to be back there trying to log things, adding additional truck traffic to those of us who live in the rural areas. The other point I wanted to mention was when I lived on Holy Neck Road, I saw evidence of a shallow well, and my elderly neighbor's well did indeed go dry. And this was long before they did all this. So just some points to take into consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I see some faces in the audience. Does anyone else like to speak in opposition? Don't come up yet. Hold your hand up so I can see how many. Got 3. Okay. Because this completes the time for the opposition. I'll take a motion to extend 10 minutes.
So moved.
Second motion.
All in favor? Aye. The opposition? Okay. The next speaker come up, please. Time's of essence, so move a little faster.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, Vice Chairman and Board. My name is Elvin Rawls, and I will be impacted real. The sand pits will be right in front of my house after they finish. All we will have is a hole. So what we supposed to do with the hole after the hole is there? I say on 6670 Holy Neck Road, and I'll be right in front of the sand pit. Years ago, I had to dig another well because of union camps. They draw water off our wells, but I had to go ahead and dig another well. So that's more money out of my pocket. So what do we? If they dig the sand pit, how to know what environmental it's going to do to us? Is it going to dry our wells? Is it going to cause cancer? Which I'm going through right now because of farmland spraying. But what would we do? Sometimes we need to put a hope on some of these projects. How would any one of us like a hole in front of your house when the sand pit is over? I'd like to say thank you for hearing me out today. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
I believe this is an egregious error. I think every one of you being politicians are here all suborned upon some degree for monetary value. Mayhaps I am too. I live right across the street from this designated spot. I don't want to be here, but I actually chose this spot to be left alone, live in peace. I have a hard time just coping every day, getting up, getting out of bed, and I think I do a damn good job today. I'm proud to be here. But if anything interferes upon that, and upon that suborned property, the monetary value, this is going to infringe upon that. If I want to move and go back out of this country again, it is going to take it from me. And I'm going to fight. And I will fight like you've never seen. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't ask for respect, but I will give respect where it's due. I don't know any of you who know who this person is, Bobby Wynn, whomever he is. I don't know the man, but I'd like to meet him, have a talk with him. Can you understand that? Do any of you?
You understand, and I know who you are, but I would like you to tell us who you are.
Whom I am?
Yes.
I'm nobody. I'm just a dumb bride. But my name, Anthony McWayne.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And whom I can't see very good. I can't hear very well. Whom are you?
Thank you.
No answer?
I said thank you.
Yes, sir. Is there anything else you'd like to hear?
No.
I've got more to say if you'd like to hear it.
Well, we're running. Some other people want to talk, and we don't want to run out of time. Mr. Falk, you had your hand up?
Good afternoon, Chairman Singleton, members of the Planning Commission. Most of y'all know who I am, but but I'm Harold Falk, and I'm here on behalf of my wife, who has property on both sides of that pit, just down the road on Holy Neck Road. Also, I got calls last night from relatives wanting to know what I knew about it. And I told them I'm not on the economic development anymore, but I know some of the people. I'm here because of their concern that even though y'all had your signs up about rezoning, many of the people obviously didn't realize what was taking place. I just happened to be up there cutting grass yesterday and saw a flyer on the mailbox. I opened it up and shared it with my wife and daughter who live right down Holy Neck Road, and their concern is the amount of time they had to know about what was going on. Just take some consideration to everybody is not following emails and following the process in which much of the technological area of the city is working. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Does anyone else like to make some comments? Come on up, sir. No, not yet. Okay. I thought Brittany was coming up. Okay, so we're going to close the public hearing.
Oh,
No.
rebuttal.
No,
Rebuttals.
go for
Rebuttal, I'm sorry. Thank you again.
15 minutes because the
Good afternoon. I'm Bobby Wynn with TLW Materials, located 7730 Crittenton Road. And I'd just like to address some of these concerns that the residents have, and I understand, some of this stuff is an aggravation. All the development in Suffolk is an aggravation. I understand that. But land's here, there's room for growth. And in order to have that growth, you need sand. A lot of people don't understand that. Whether they're building a house and need it for a foundation, a road going into their lots, whatever it is, it may be needed for the construction. And then these warehouses, of course, use a lot. And as far as notifying everyone, I sent out 22 letters in December, certified letters. Now, some people didn't get their letters, which I resent. I think it was 4 letters, resent those letters out to make sure everyone got them, as well as posted the signs that's required by the city in the time frame that's needed. But first of all, I'd like to address Mr. Irwin's issue with the disposal coming back in. And there is material coming back in, but in that these large developments, which y'all know, they spend tens of millions of dollars on some of this property. They do extensive environmental testing on these projects. And like he said, the high-rise bridge, they're constantly testing soils. You're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. It doesn't cost that much to test soils. And they're not going to take the risk of sending contaminated material off of these jobs because they're responsible for it. And we do require paperwork stating that. Now, there may be somebody, like he said, like he might load something up on a truck to come in to dump, knowingly having something contaminated, but they just as well could go down the road and dump it somewhere unseen and contaminate that soil. So that's can happen. the state mining does regulate us, as well as on Crittenden Road, we have DEQ, MSHA come in and also monitor us, as well as, like you said, self-regulation. And, you know, with where I was before, we did get a fine for runoff. It was $41,000 for inadvertent runoff from the pit. Well, you don't want many of those fines. And when you're dealing with environmental issues, the fines are very large, and it's not something you want to take a risk with. And I was involved with the Highland Sand Pit from its inception for 13 years up to 8 months ago. So I'm very familiar with all that and the material that's come back in there. And as y'all know, a lot of that deals with the Center Point properties there along 58, some of these warehouses, which the material is not contaminated, but it can be bad soils, which they have to get rid of, meaning mucky clay that they can't build on. So that's the issue. But as far as these pits, when they're dug, it's just like on these development subdivisions, the sediment basins are required, and that's to withhold the sediment running off the site. Well, these sand pits basically work the same way. When we go in there, this pit is going to be, like I said, average depth of 10 foot, which is not going to affect the groundwater. But also, we grade it to fall into that hole so that the sediment runs back into that area and doesn't run off the site, not into the wetlands or into the road. It comes back to the site. So I understand the issues, but a lot of that the people don't understand. And I did go out to talk to some of the residents. I only found a few. Like the other gentleman said, the people don't always want to come out when you go by. And sometimes they get upset. But as far as the water quality, we also have that tested in there. And as far as monitoring wells, until you get down to 30 foot, they can be required in Virginia as well, but it's usually when a deep pit, like a rock quarry or something, places that are really going down in the ground, you need those, could need the monitoring wells. And as far as the traffic, as Amy stated earlier, these trucks, if they're not coming from here within Suffolk, they're going to be coming from Southampton County, they're going to be coming from Isle of Wight, they're going to be coming from Virginia Beach. And in order to get that material to the Suffolk area, it's going to take 2 to 3 times the number of trucks to move the same amount of material to get there. So you're talking about that much more truck traffic on the Suffolk roads as opposed to short distances. And again, I understand the aggravation. I mean, 58, all the work out there is an aggravation, but it's a necessary evil of what's needed in the city. And along with those trucks, which a lot of them are located right here in Suffolk, and speaking of the jobs, only 5 to 7 jobs, well, all those truck drivers that are part of it, it creates jobs for them as well and work for them to keep them working. And with that, you have mechanics, you know, it's just all part of the economy and the wheel that turns. So there might only be 5 to 7 people there, but it's a whole lot more going on as well as that. So if there's any other questions, I'd like to address them.
Does anyone have any questions for his
I've
rebuttal?
got a couple questions. When you mine this material, do you guys blast it?
No, it's all digging with excavators.
Okay.
Loaded with excavators or wheel loaders.
And then this will go back to agricultural after the fact, correct?
Yes, and that's something I wanted to touch on. I know Amy did some, but landowners who couple of them have been in that area for 80 years, whether living or landowners, and they have a lot of land out there as well as adjacent to it. But it'll stay basically agriculture. As we're digging, we'll start off with 5 to 10 acres. The farming will still be concurrent with what we're doing. And as we go along and we take more to farmland, but as that material we're bringing in, we place it back, we'll be covering it back up with topsoil so that the farmers will continue to work that area until we're going to leave a smaller pond on both sites, which years down the road, whether they use it for irrigation or they use it for a development, in 15, 20 years, who knows what's going to be out that way. It'll be there as sediment basins to utilize.
I just wanted to remind everyone, the public hearing is still open right now, so questions would be appropriate afterwards.
We'll save the question till after the public hearing when you finish your rebuttal.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Did anyone else will speak in on rebuttal? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Now, Commissioners, questions and comments.
I got a little ahead of myself.
I got ahead of myself. I'd like to make a comment. I like Mr. Rawls, this pit is in his front yard. This pit is literally in my backyard.
Oh.
Okay, so I will not be able to support this, and I received phone calls from some elderly people in the neighborhood. One lady, I'm not going to call her name, she said some elderly people, and I says, who are they? She said, I'm one of them. And she couldn't get out today, but she wanted to make sure that I let them know that the neighborhood is not in favor of this. Ms. Amy mentioned that intersection down at where Holy Neck and Old South Key comes together. That is not an ideal place. That is a bottleneck. That is a dangerous location now for regular traffic. The traffic coming out of North Carolina comes up Holy Neck Road. The guys going to the shipyard, they come up that way in the morning, and they're running Holy Neck Road to South Key to 58. So now you're going to put trucks in that mix, and you're going to have some serious accidents there. Again, I cannot support this borrow pit there, and the neighbors are concerned about their wells and the environment. Again, questions, comments, or motion, Commissioners?
I have some questions from Mr. Wynn. You mentioned that that would be material that would be returned to the pits as you're digging it out, then you're replacing it with material from other areas. And you said there would remain 2 smaller ponds. Out of the total area that you'll be taking material out of, how much would be left as ponds as a percentage maybe?
We talked about 5 to 10 acre ponds.
Okay. And the water table, what happens if when you're digging you hit like an artesian? And the reason I know that, I'm on a pond that's constantly running because it's fed by underground sources. Is that what happens when you hit a section like that? Or do you know there are none there?
The pond fills up. You're not going to lose all the water. The pond fills up. The groundwater level is going to stay constant no matter what as your pond fills. And we might have to do some pumping. What we've done in the past is put a partition in there, pump from one side to the other.
All right, and it seems like that the water level or the water table there is around 12 feet.
Right.
And so you'll go down about 10 feet.
Sir.
What happens if you go below 12 feet to the surrounding areas' water tables? Would that mean they would dry up some, possibly?
It's my understanding that the wells, anybody that puts a well in now goes down 90 feet or deeper.
90 feet.
Is in that area is what they have to do to get to the aquifers that they need and to keep it from drying up, because there have been wells, the shallow wells that they're having issues with all over Suffolk, not just here.
I have a question, but it's really for one of the city staff, so if anybody else needs Mr. Wynn.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Wynn while he's at the podium?
I do. Do you know about what percent of what you're extracting stays in the city? Like, are you delivering it all over Hampton Roads? As much of it stay local? Because there's a ton of development going on.
Yes, being in this location, it's hard to get anywhere other than Suffolk with this material.
Okay.
And that's what this pit is based on, serving, just Suffolk. And there may be, once in a while, if you go down 58, you have to go across the scale, so that creates an issue. So I would say 98% would stay in Suffolk, if not 100%.
I have a question about the material you're talking about, Bobby. What is it, sand? I'm familiar with the vein of sand that goes up, and you probably are too, I'm sure, Route 10. And there's really nice white sand, in that area. Is that the kind of material that we're talking about there, or is it clay, or what is it?
It is some really nice white sand on this property. There's also some clay material and some sandy clay. So there's a mixture.
And when you take the material, when the dump trucks come back in, what type of material is that?
It's a clay material, but it's more of the material, if y'all are familiar with Centerpoint, Equus now, right there on 58 where the warehouses are, that material out there is not a good material. It's what we always call it mucky. It's just a mucky clay that's hard to build on. It gets hard once it sits for a period of time, but when you're trying to build, you just can't do it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wynn. You have for Ms. Mervine?
Yes, for Amy. I have a question for Amy.
Oh, Amy. Oh, okay. She's working for the other company
Oh.
now.
Amy
Amy
Maybe I
Mervine.
wrote it down. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll city
Mervine,
staff.
Okay.
Yeah. I must have written it down wrong. It's really dealing with traffic, so there she is, yeah. She slipped out.
There's
Yeah.
Jason.
Jason, take care of it.
Yeah. And I'm glad y'all left that up. When I rode out there and looked at this property, I was really concerned about the fact that I came in on the road up at the top, and of course that is a weird angle that you come in from. Then I rode by, and then when I looked at my packet and I saw that this was the proposed, that V at the bottom down there looks like a disaster in the works. And driving through there in a car, I couldn't imagine a couple of trucks meeting on that V section. So will that be improved? Would that be required that be widened or anything there as a part of this?
We can take a look at that through turning movement analysis a little bit more closely when we have the site plan come in, but in all honesty, that's almost a 90-degree turn for that movement, and it's a very wide radii on the insides of those curves. So I know it looks like a sharp curve because of the angle that South Key comes down away from Holy Neck there. It's almost straight, but the movement that these trucks will be making, we went out there, we looked at that pretty closely. We feel that they can make it safely, and we can look at that even more closely through the site plan if this is approved.
How about left turning trucks out on the divided highway there. Is that not a real traffic problem for the city?
There's going to be a delay waiting for gaps to make that left there, but there's nothing to suggest that it can't be done safely. It's going to be up to the drivers of those trucks to be prudent and wait for proper gaps to get in traffic. There are gaps there. It can be done safe.
What would be, how will it be controlled that when they're leaving the pit, that they make a right turn rather than taking that shortcut back to
It's going to be up to the operator to control the drivers leaving that site and to make sure they're abiding by that condition to use the haul route. If we start having reports that trucks are coming up directly up Holy Neck to 58, then we're going to have to address that with the operator because that'll be a condition of the use permit.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioners. I think we had all the questions and we had all the comments. Can I get a motion?
Everybody is bashful today. I'll make the motion for approval of conditional use permit CUP 2024-001.
Second it.
Got a motion and a second for CUP 2024-001. Any discussion on the motion? If not, Mr. Wyman, you call for the vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, a yes vote is for approval.
Yes vote is for approval.
The motion was for approval.
Oh, okay. All right, let me get back in the game. All right.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Good now.
All right, commissioners, please vote. Mr. Chairman, the motion fails by a vote of 3-5.
So when this will go to City Council on April 17 with a recommendation from this body for denial. Okay, Commissioners, we have the next item, the Parkwood, the second part of that part we were dealing with earlier. I'll take a motion to table this for 30 days also. It's item E.
So move.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I have a voice vote on this?
Do we need to hold the public hearing before the tabling?
It would probably be better, since the applicant has asked for it to be tabled, to not have the public hearing, because if you close the public hearing, that will be the end of the public hearing.
Okay.
Work my favorite word change. Okay, where was I at? Let's do this with the voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Huh? Do a roll call, I'm sorry. Get a recorded vote.
All right, we'll do. All right.
Can we just clarify that that's what the applicant wants?
Still sitting out there. Clarification, that they want to table.
Clarification of what?
I just wanted to make sure that was what the applicant asked us to do. Is that
No, it's what we're doing because it was the other half of the one that we tabled earlier, and the city attorney advised us that it would be in conflict trying to send that forward. Okay? So you're going to call the roll.
We'll do electronic voting. All right, commissioners, please vote.
Let me get this straight now. What am I? I'm voting to take. If I vote yes, I'm tabling it. If I
Vote yes for tabling, yes.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, that motion is approved by a vote of 7-1.
So this is, Mr., I think his name is Palmer, is it? This will be tabled for 30 days to get the other part of that straightened out. The next item is subdivision variance request, SBV 2023-001, Prospect West. Mr. Wine, will you read the caption, please?
So find it, 1 moment. Yes, sir. Subdivision variance request SBV 2023-001 Prospect West, submitted by Bob Arnett, Moores Point LLC, applicant and owner, in accordance with sections 31607 and 31612 of the Unified Development Ordinance to grant a variance for relief of the requirement to have a connectivity ratio of greater than 1.40 on property located at zoning map 35, parcel 92. The purpose of this request is to grant relief from the specified development standards of the Unified Development Ordinance pertaining to the development of Prospect West subdivision. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Suffolk voting borough, zoned RU, residential urban conditional zoning district. The 2035 comprehensive plan designates this area as part of the central growth area in a ring suburban use district. When you act on this request, you'll be acting on a resolution to present a report and recommendation to City Council relating to subdivision variance request SBV 2023-001. Staff Planner Grace Brazil will present staff's report.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chairman and Planning Commissioners. As stated, this is a request for a subdivision variance for relief from the minimum connectivity ratio requirement for the Prospect West subdivision. So the property above may look familiar to some of you as it was previously rezoned in November of 2021 to RU to allow for a 15 single-family detached development. At that time, it was known as Prospect Road. That was the project name. It is now Prospect West subdivision. As part of staff's report for the rezoning, staff noted that a subdivision variance for connectivity would need to be obtained for the development prior to any plan approval. So staff was expecting this to come forward and then to be presented before you, the Planning Commission, and then City Council. Since the rezoning and engineering plan has been received and is currently under review, additionally, an administrative variance for relief from the maximum cul-de-sac length was also submitted. The approval of the engineering plan and the administrative variance is contingent on the approval of this request. But as far as the property, it is only 3.2 acres in size, and it is surrounded by established developments. Directly to the north, you have the Garden Apartment, zoned RU. To the west is the East End Baptist Church, and then to the south, as well as to the east, are residential single-family dwellings, zoned RLM. So this is the layout provided by the applicant for the request, which is directly from the engineering plan. Like I said, that is under review. It is important to note this variance request pertains only to the street improvement standards with regard to the street connectivity. The applicant does not propose a change in zoning or permitted uses. Section 31-612 for street improvement standards of the UDO does establish a minimum connectivity ratio of 1.4 for subdivisions in order to support an interconnected street system. The layout is a zoomed-in portion of the layout that was provided. It is marked up to show how the ratio is calculated. The ratio for the development is calculated by dividing the link, which is depicted in red, by the number of nodes depicted by a blue dot. So therefore, this project does have a ratio of 1, which is less than that 1.4 required minimum. So staff has analyzed the criteria for granting variances outlined in the UDO, and we do concur with the applicant that a variance is warranted. Overall, the approval of this variance is not expected to jeopardize public safety, health, or welfare, as adequate access can still be provided for the proposed development utilizing the one access point from Prospect Road. Additionally, the Department of Public Works, Traffic Engineering Division, as well as the Suffolk Fire Department have expressed no objections to this variance request to allow for the lower ratio. It is also staff's opinion that the conditions in which the variance is being sought are indeed unique to the property, as the existing surrounding development and the size of the property limits the potential for any street connections. So pretty much it would be very difficult to get another street to be constructed within the 3.2 acres. And then with that surrounding existing development, it would be very difficult to connect into other street systems. Without the requested variance, it would likely be impractical or infeasible for the development to realize the maximum number of 15 dwelling units that the previous rezoning did allow for. Therefore, staff recommends approval of SBV 2023-001, subject to the following conditions outlined in staff's report. That does conclude my presentation, but I will be available for any questions following the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brazil. Who would like to speak in favor of this request?
Good afternoon again, Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Again, for the record, my name is Grady Palmer. My business address 999 Waterside Drive in the city of Norfolk. And I know we've been here a while, so I won't take up all the time. I would just say this application meets the criteria that is in the UDO for subdivision variance. But I would just, in closing, just emphasize that this really was the vision for this property when it was rezoned in 2021. And this is really just the last step in the discretionary process of approving this project that was rezoned and recommended for approval by this commission, and City Council adopted it. So really, this is just the last, point in the last stop on the way to approval. So we would request that you approve this in accordance with your ordinance, and I'll stand by for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Does anyone else to speak in favor of this request? Hearing none. Is anyone to speak in opposition? Hearing none. We have no rebuttal this time. So we're going to close the public hearing. And Commissioner, question, comments, or motion?
Chairman, I move approval of SBV 2023-001 with the two conditions.
Second.
Second, everyone. Discussion on the motion?
Commissioners, please vote. Mr. Chairman, the motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Doing good now. You got 1 out of 3. Go forward. Thanks for your time and your patience today. Okay, the next item on our agenda is ordinance text amendment OTA 2024-003. Mr. Wine, will you read the caption, please?
Yes, sir. Ordinance text amendment OTA 2024-003, initiated by the City of Suffolk for amendments to the Code of the City of Suffolk, Chapter 31, Unified Development Ordinance, Article 3, Procedures, Section 31301, General Procedural Requirements, Section 31301E, Notice Provisions. The purpose of this text amendment is to update and refine the Code of the City of Suffolk, Chapter 31, Unified Development Ordinance. When you act on this request, you will be acting on a resolution to present a report and recommendation to City Council relating to Ordinance Text Amendment OTA 2024-003. Our Assistant Director of Planning, Meg Pittenger, will provide an overview of this item.
Thank you, Kevin. Good afternoon, evening now, I think. It's 5 o'clock. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of Planning Commission. As Kevin indicated, we're going to talk a little bit about the notice provisions in the UDO for public hearing. Ooh, that is smaller than I expected it to be. Sorry about that. So in the UDO, in section 31-301, subsection E, there is a section that talks about in addition to the requirements of state code, which is 15.2, 2204, any planner knows that one by heart, which talks about advertising requirements in the newspaper and that sort of thing. The UDO also requires that for public hearings, that the applicant for any land use item for public hearing has to erect on or immediately adjacent to the property a sign or signs specified giving the public notice of the zoning action. One sign needs to be posted, the signs need to be posted so that they are legible and visible from the right-of-way on each public street. And where the property has extensive road frontage, one sign shall be erected for each 500 feet of frontage. And so that you may have seen as you're going out to these sites, we have gotten larger signs to help with this process to make these signs more visible. The little blue signs, people often complained that they got lost in the brush or they were not visible, they're low to the ground. They're your standard sort of, we buy mattresses signs, and sometimes they got lost in the shuffle of the 60 miles an hour going down Holland Road. So the old signs, they are 24 by 24. I mean, that seems large enough when you're sitting in the office, but out on the road, they're kind of small. So we bought some new signs that we're trying to figure out a place to store in our office, but we have them. They are 4 times larger. They are 48 by 48 and a bright orange sign, bright orange in color, and they have the ability for us to put lots more information on there. So if you've gone by, it has the item numbers, CUP 24, whatever. It has what the use is for, and then has the dates of the public hearing for Planning Commission, and then staff goes out after the Planning Commission, after our public hearing has been scheduled for City Council, and puts the additional date for the City Council public hearing. Has our website address where the applications are, and the phone number, and our email address. So lots of information on there, and very visible. I also put them up on big garden stakes so that they're much higher off the ground. Since they are larger, we have contemplated extending the distance that the signs need to be placed. You had a recent case on Barnes Road that had 1,800 feet of frontage, so 4 signs are required for that, which is a lot of signs. And so since the signs are 4 times larger, staff is proposing to extend the distance from 500 feet for each 500 feet of road frontage to 2,000 feet of road frontage. Again, to make it a little bit more manageable for the applicants having to come with a larger vehicle to come pick these up, and for staff in preparing the signs. So staff is recommending extending that distance from 500 feet to 2,000 feet for each road frontage. Now, if there are separate frontages, they still have to place additional signs on each of those frontages. So that this will not change that requirement. If you're on a corner, or if you have little teeth that stick out, you'll still have to put a sign on each of those. But where you just have one big long frontage, we're proposing to extend that. So if at the conclusion of the public hearing, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll now open the public hearing on OTA 2024-003. Is anyone to speak in favor? Hearing none. Surprised me.
Sorry. I am in favor of changing. I like the new signs. They're easier to read. Bravo Zulu. And also with the addition of the Planning Commission, our Planning Department making available information about rezonings without requiring a Freedom of Information Act, that simplifies the public getting the information. So thank you very much, Kevin. The only thing that I object to is bad math. While the area of the sign has been quadrupled, the actual size of the letters has only been doubled. So please take that into consideration. I would recommend, if you're going to go ahead and increase the distance, do it proportionally to the size of the letters, that the text that they're reading, and not the overall area of the sign. So I would recommend 1,000 feet if that's the criteria that they're using. But otherwise, yeah, I love the new signs. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Dunn. Anyone else? Hear none. Is anyone in opposition? Close the public hearing. Any discussion of the, this? No? Okay. So we're going, guess we need a motion, huh?
Again. I move the approval of ordinance text amendment OTA 2024-003.
Second.
Got a motion, second. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I was taking a nap. Go ahead.
Call for the vote, please.
Commissioners, please vote. Mr. Chairman, the motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Now we'll go to City Council on April 17th. Yeah, I don't think we have any old business.
No.
Okay. In new business, we have that ordinance text amendment that we took off earlier that we need to send it back to the committee. So I will accept the motion to send OTA 2024-002 back to committee.
So moved.
So moved. Got a motion?
Second, yes.
Got a second? Can we do this with a voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Okay. I think we have something else that you need to talk about?
Yes, sir.
Something new?
Yes, sir. I guess it probably would have been appropriate for a new business. Can you run the PowerPoint? You're on top of it, Brittany. I appreciate you. We have an item that we were able to finalize the documents on just one day after the packets were distributed to you all. So we wanted to walk you through this kind of as a significant land use application because it does check that criteria. But this is for a borrow pit located at 1200 Winoak Trail, zoning map 59, parcel 4. The property is zoned A, agricultural zoning district. The property is large, and it's 338 acres in size. Ultimately, the applicant is seeking a conditional use permit for a borrow pit to operate 3 separate borrow pits on the site, one being approximately 122 acres in size, a second being 35 acres in size, and the last being roughly 54 acres in size, which totals 212 acres altogether. We have the proposal, the conceptual layout available for you to peruse on the screen. The property is located along the Blackwater River, and it is immediately adjacent to the north of the South Key Sandhills, which are located to the south, which is a DCR Natural Heritage Site. So with that being said, this will be tentatively scheduled for your April meeting for consideration, and we wanted to brief you on this. All information on this item is available on the city's website.
Any more action here today?
No, sir.
Okay, we got the status report of the city council meeting.
Yes, sir. There were 4 items in total. I'm sorry, 5 items in total. It's been a long meeting. The first being rezoning request RZN 2023-009. This was for Ryan Construction. You may recall that they were rezoning a portion of their property to legally expand their operation there on Wilroy Road. That was from RL to M1. Light industrial that was approved, as was the corresponding companion CUP for that use. Rezoning request RZN 2023-010 conditional. This is River Highlands Phase 3. This was to amend some design criteria proffers associated with the Nansman River Golf Club. That was approved with the proffers as offered. Conditional use permit CUP 2022-024. This is the Whaleyville event venue that was approved with the conditions for a banquet hall at 6142 Whaleyville Boulevard. And lastly, A CUP request, CUP 2023-026, Joy Apostolic Ministries, was approved for a use permit at 807 West Washington Street. That concludes the items that went before City Council in February.
We have no preliminary plats, and commissioners got any comments? Okay. I'd like to make one comment, and Mr. Dunn is in the audience, and I'd like to address something was taking place earlier. I don't accept handouts at the meeting because you come to the podium and you give us a handout, and we're passing the handout, and we're looking at it, and we're not looking at you and listening to you when you're making your presentation. That's the reason that I don't accept anything. And if you have something that you want us to see, we appreciate if you give it to give it to planning early, and it'll be at our place when we get here. Okay. Thank you. I think we covered everything. We stand adjourned.